Chapter 3846. Duanling Tian. Xikong Yu directly stopped Duanling Tian. As for Duanling Tian, he looked at her with a puzzled expression. You are? Do I know you? Although he felt that he seemed to have glanced at the woman before him from somewhere, he didn't have a deep impression of her and was unable to recall for a while. You. When Xikong Yu heard this, the expression on her pretty face sunk slightly. At this time, a blue-robed young man from the group of one woman and two men behind her said indifferently, Little Yu, is this the person you want to help? He already said that he doesn't know you, yet you still persuaded us to join hands with him? As he finished speaking, the blue-robed young man shook his head in a timely manner, seeming to be somewhat unable to understand. Duanling Tian, aren't you being a bit ungrateful? At this moment, another young woman with a pretty face and a delicate appearance who wore a light green dress followed behind Xikong Yu. She slightly frowned and said, After knowing that you were targeted by the Supreme Sect, who in the Tianlong clan was willing to join hands with you to enter the God King battlefield? But Xikong Yu persuaded the three of us to let you join our small team. This, to you, is no different from sending charcoal in snowy weather. It's one thing for you to refuse, but now you actually say that you don't know her? As the woman finished speaking, her tone was filled with anger. You're Xikong Yu? At this moment, Duanling Tian finally reacted, and looked at Xikong Yu with an embarrassed smile. I'm sorry, I really didn't recognize you. After all, I've never seen you before. Ding Yan told me of your good intentions. But, what I wanted to say, I presume Ding Yan has already told you. I don't intend to join hands with anyone. I'll enter the God King battlefield alone. As for you all, the Supreme Sect is currently targeting me, so it's very rare for a lone God King disciple to appear in the God King battlefield. So, I advise you all to find a few more teammates so as to avoid suffering a great loss. Although he didn't accept Xikong Yu's good intentions, Duanling Tian was still grateful. Therefore, before entering the God King battlefield, he reminded Xikong Yu. Then he walked to the entrance of the battlefield and received his own battlefield token, which was also his identity badge in the Emperor battle plane. He engraved his name on it. At the same time, Duanling Tian also revealed his current cultivation base in front of a group of people. High Deity King. Duanling Tian actually broke through and became a High God King. Oh my god. Isn't this too fast? Duanling Tian had already broken through to become a High God King. This was a fact that not many people knew. Now that Duanling Tian had appeared, it was no surprise that many people were shocked. Before this, although everyone was paying attention to Duanling Tian, they were more concerned about the conflict between Duanling Tian and the Supreme Sect. Even if they knew that Duanling Tian was a High God King, and although they knew that Duanling Tian's current strength was definitely stronger than what he had displayed in the Hidden Dragon competition, they didn't think that Duanling Tian could contend against a large number of God King disciples of the Supreme Sect. Duanling Tian broke through to the High God King realm. Judging from the strength he displayed in the Hidden Dragon competition, coupled with his High God King cultivation base, in our Tianlong clan, I'm afraid that no one below the God King realm is his match. If the Supreme Sect doesn't have a hidden God King, there shouldn't be anyone who can defeat Duanling Tian in a one-on-one battle. I really didn't expect that Duanling Tian had already broken through to the High God Emperor realm. It seems that it won't be that easy for the Supreme Sect's God Kings to kill him. A High God King who is proficient in the laws of space, and he is so strong. Even if he is not a match for him and wants to escape, unless the Supreme Sect's God Kings work together and plan ahead, it will be difficult to stop Duanling Tian. While everyone was shocked, Duanling Tian had already entered the God King battlefield in a flash. He broke through to the High God King realm? Xikong Yu also didn't know that Duanling Tian had already broken through. Now that she had personally witnessed Duanling Tian displaying the cultivation of a High God King, even she herself didn't know why, but she actually heaved a sigh of relief. No wonder he was so arrogant. So he broke through to the High God King realm. The woman behind Xikong Yu walked to her side and said with a slight frown, with the strength he displayed in the Hidden Dragon Grand competition, after breaking through to the High God King realm, his strength will rise to another level. If there was anyone below the God Emperor realm in our Tianlong clan who could contend against him before, I'm afraid that there is no one left now. He really doesn't need to cooperate with us. The last person in Xikong Yu's small team, a middle-aged man with a medium build wearing a dark red robe, spoke up. With his current strength, even if the four of us join forces, I'm afraid that we won't be his match. It's meaningless for him to join forces with us. In fact, it's meaningless for him to join forces with anyone in our Tianlong clan. This time the Supreme Sect is probably out of luck. No wonder he dared to say in front of the Supreme Sect that he wouldn't come out until he killed 100 Supreme Sect disciples. With his strength, it's not difficult for him to do so. Of course, that's if the Supreme Sect isn't prepared. Now that the Supreme Sect is prepared and God Kings are in groups, it won't be easy for him to kill 100 Supreme Sect disciples. I'm afraid that the Supreme Sect will soon know that he's a High God King. At that time, they'll definitely come up with a plan to deal with him. The middle-aged man wearing a dark red robe wasn't an inner disciple of the Tianlong clan, nor was he an Azure Dragon disciple. He was an outer sect deacon of the Tianlong clan's outer sect. However, although he was an outer sect deacon and was slightly older, his strength was publicly recognized as strong below the God Emperor realm of the Tianlong clan. Otherwise, Sikong Yu and the other 2 Azure Dragon disciples wouldn't have sought him out. His strength wasn't weaker than most of the Azure Dragon disciples. It was also because he had lived for so long that he saw many things more clearly than others. At this time, Sikong Yu didn't say anything. He quietly looked in the direction that Duan Lingtian left in. After a long time, he withdrew his gaze and there was an inexplicable light in the depths of his eyes. Near the entrance of the Sky Dragon City's God King battlefield, after Duan Lingtian displayed his High God King cultivation, many people began to send messages to their friends, fellow disciples, and elders to inform them that Duan Lingtian had already become a High God King. Not long after, this news also spread to the Greater One Sect through the spies that the Supreme Sect had planted in the Tianlong clan. Immediately there was also a response from the Greater One Sect. Duan Lingtian has already broken through and become a High God King. His strength is already the strongest person below the God Emperor realm in the Tianlong clan. Don't underestimate him, God King disciples. Following the order of the Greater One Sect Master, a group of Greater One Sect elders immediately reminded the God King disciples of the Greater One Sect who were preparing to enter the God King battlefield. At this time, many God King disciples of the Greater One Sect had already entered the God King battlefield. After you enter, if you encounter a group that has entered before you, do your best to cooperate with them. At the same time, tell them that Duan Lingtian's strength is no longer the same as before, so remember to be careful. After you enter, use your brains more. If you can outsmart him, do so. At the same time, if you want to kill Duan Lingtian, after discovering his whereabouts, don't be in a hurry to act. Set up a trap to kill him so that he has no chance of escaping. Although Duan Lingtian is strong, he is still only a God King. No matter how strong a God King is, he is still inferior to a God Emperor. You have the advantage of numbers, so you have a chance of killing him. After you enter, tell the others that the Sect Master has previously issued a reward of 200,000 contribution points for killing Duan Lingtian. Now, the Sect Master has issued a reward of 300,000 contribution points for killing Duan Lingtian. The group of God King disciples of the Greater One Sect who were preparing to enter the God King battlefield had their ears filled with the messages of their elders before they entered, almost without pause. Just as the group of God King disciples of the Greater One Sect was about to enter the God King battlefield. In a quiet valley somewhere in the Greater One Sect's encampment, an old figure flashed out and stood in the air in front of a small wooden house with his hands clasped behind his back. A moment later, the door of the small wooden house opened and a tall figure walked out. It was a young man with a determined and handsome face. He was tall, with sword-like eyebrows and bright eyes. Dressed in a snow-white robe, he stood there like a javelin but also like a sword. His sword soared into the sky, straight into the clouds. Master. The white-robed young man bowed to the old man in the air in front of him. The old man was dressed in a gray robe. He had white hair and a ruddy complexion. He had a benevolent countenance. However, when the white-robed young man bowed to him, his pair of soul pearl eyes instantly became sharp. This time, when you enter the God King battlefield, if you can kill Duan Lingtian, after you break through to the God Emperor realm, your path to the God Emperor realm will be much easier. The old man said unhurriedly, originally, you disdained to enter the God King battlefield and slaughter the God King disciples of the Tianlong clan, because you thought that none of them were your match. But now there is a Duan Lingtian who is invincible under the God Emperor realm in the Tianlong clan. He is worthy of being your opponent. Hearing this, the white-robed young man raised his eyebrows and his eyes were as sharp as a sword. I originally had no intention of entering the God King battlefield, but this time I entered for him. I hope he will not disappoint me. Hearing this, the old man took a deep look at him. If you can't beat him, then retreat and preserve your useful body. Even if the Greater One Sect cannot produce a God Emperor expert in this God King battle, you should cultivate well. In the future, even without the baptism of the God King battle, with your talent, it should be easy for you to become a God Emperor. In the Tungleng province, there is no one under the God Emperor realm who can kill me, Shimin Longxiang. As soon as the white-robed young man's voice fell, he turned into a ray of sword light, paused in the air, and in the next moment, appeared in an extremely distant place. The figure that remained where he was also dissipated. Shimin Longxiang, the number one person of the younger generation in the Greater One sect, was already invincible under the God Emperor realm in the Greater One sect. However, because he had not appeared in front of others after defeating all the powerful upper God Kings under the God Emperor realm in the Greater One sect, it had been more than 1,000 years since then, so many people in the Greater One sect thought that he had left the Greater One sect and gone to the top God Emperor realm forces in the Tungleng province. In addition, no one explained, so the speculation was taken as true. Chapter 38-47. A young man in a snow-white robe appeared in the palace of the Greater One sect's encampment. Wherever he passed, he attracted the attention of everyone. This is Senior Brother Shimin Longxiang? It's Senior Brother Shimin Longxiang. Didn't they say that Senior Brother Shimin Longxiang left the sect 10,000 years ago and went to one of the top God Emperor forces in Tungleng province? Back then, he received an invitation from one of those top God Emperor forces, and the people who came weren't ordinary people. I didn't expect Senior Brother Shimin Longxiang to still be in our Greater One sect. This is shocking news. Senior Brother Shimin, are you here to enter the Emperor battle plane? It's obvious. 8,000 years ago, Senior Brother Shimin Longxiang relied on his middle God King cultivation to defeat many of our Greater One sect's strongest God Kings below the God Emperor level. Now that 1,000 years have passed with his talent, he should at least be a higher God King, right? Inside the palace, a group of people looked at Shimin Longxiang from afar, their eyes shining brightly. Shimin Longxiang was the pride of the Greater One sect, the most talented genius in history. He was recognized as the person who had the most hope of becoming a God Emperor in the future. 1,000 years ago, Shimin Longxiang had disappeared without a trace. Everyone in the Greater One sect thought he had left, but they didn't expect him to still be in the sect. Senior Brother Shimin. At this time, a Greater One sect disciple who was slowly walking forward asked Shimin Longxiang with some apprehension, "You're planning to enter the Emperor battle plane?" "Yes." Shimin Longxiang didn't slow down and replied indifferently, "I'm going to the Emperor battle plane to kill Duan Lingtian." As soon as he finished speaking, he sped up and disappeared into the spatial tunnel leading to the Emperor battle plane. Only then did everyone come back to their senses. Senior Brother Shimin is going to the Emperor battle plane for Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian was one of the most outstanding disciples of the Tianlong clan below the God Emperor level when he was a middle God King. Now that he's a higher God King, can Senior Brother Shimin really kill him? I have confidence in Senior Brother Shimin. You should know that 1,000 years ago, when Senior Brother Shimin was just a mid-God King, he was already invincible under the God Emperor realm in our Supreme East sect. Now that 1,000 years have passed, he must have broken through to the High God King realm. Wouldn't it be easy for him to kill that Duan Lingtian? A battle between two great geniuses. If I could witness it with my own eyes, my life would not have been in vain. Idiot. We can follow behind Senior Brother Shimin Longxiang and follow him. This way, with Senior Brother Shimin Longxiang here, even if we enter the God King battlefield, we won't feel any pressure when encountering those God King disciples of the Tianlong clan. Senior Brother Shimin Longxiang can't just watch as we get killed, right? That makes sense. Let's go. We will follow Senior Brother Shimin Longxiang. Many of the God King's disciples excitedly followed Shimin Longxiang into the Emperor battle plane. And in the Emperor battle plane Supreme E City, seeing Shimin Longxiang appear, the nearby Supreme E sect disciples were similarly shocked. When they heard the Supreme E sect disciples relaying Shimin Longxiang's words, more Supreme E sect God King disciples immediately followed Shimin Longxiang, heading towards the God King battlefield. Some Supreme E sect God King disciples had already found a team, but now they still chose to fly alone. Many teams had already disbanded. At this time, what's the point of forming a team? Senior Brother Shimin Longxiang entered the God King battlefield to kill Duan Lingtian. Following behind Senior Brother Shimin Longxiang won't be dangerous, and there's even a good show to watch. Some Supreme E sect God King disciples who left their team said as a matter of fact. There were also God King disciples who saw through it. Actually, those of us who followed Senior Brother Shimin Longxiang into the God King battlefield, wouldn't we be a team? Moreover, this team doesn't belong to any of the existing teams. I even suspect that the few of us here are enough to deal with Duan Lingtian. Ah, that's true. Not long after, a very lively scene appeared at the entrance of the God King battlefield in Tai City. A group of Supreme E-Sect God King disciples followed behind Shimin Longxiang and entered the God King battlefield together. However, after entering the God King battlefield for a moment, they were dumbfounded. This was because Shimin Longxiang had disappeared before their eyes in a flash, completely shaking them off. This scene made them very disappointed and also very shocked. Heavens! Senior brother Shimin Longxiang's speed has reached such a level? Senior brother Shimin is already a higher God King. Moreover, I feel that the law of wind he comprehended is even more powerful. When he left just now, I couldn't even catch his figure. Me too. I could only see his figure flashing before my eyes, appearing in several directions, and then disappearing without a trace. I don't know where he went. With senior brother Shimin Longxiang's current strength, looking at the entire Tunglung province, I'm afraid it's difficult to find anyone below the God King level who can defeat him. That Tianlong clan disciple Duan Lingtian is destined to be unlucky this time. I thought I could follow senior brother Shimin Longxiang to watch the show, but I didn't expect to be happy for nothing. I'm going back. I'll go find my previous team. I'm going back too. Seeing that Shimin Longxiang had left them behind, a group of God King disciples with some strength immediately went back one after another. Their strength was not bad, but now that they had followed behind Shimin Longxiang, there were many lower God Kings. They had no intention of joining forces with these people, so naturally they decided to go back. As for the weaker God Kings, they were self-aware of their own strength, so they did not say much and obediently followed the people who left first. A group of people came in a mighty manner and returned in a mighty manner. At the same time, the Tianlong clan also received news from a spy in Tai sect. Shimin Longxiang has entered the battlefield of God Kings to kill Duan Lingtian. When this news reached the Tianlong temple, it caused many of the Tianlong clan's higher-ups to worry about Duan Lingtian. Even the Tianlong clan's clan master Long Qingchong frowned when he heard the news. Shimin Longxiang? He's still in Tai sect. I thought he had already left Tunglung province and gone to a force more powerful than the top God Emperor forces in Tunglung province. I didn't expect him to still be in Tai sect. This time, I'm afraid it's going to be a little troublesome. Long Qingchong took a deep breath, and there was a hint of worry in the depths of his eyes. Whether Duan Lingtian stayed in the Tianlong clan or left after the God Emperor battle, it was very important to the Tianlong clan. Originally, although Tai sect was targeting Duan Lingtian, he was not worried about Duan Lingtian's safety when he knew that Duan Lingtian had broken through to become a high-level God King. If the God King disciples of Tai sect joined forces, no matter how strong they were with Duan Lingtian's strength, even if he was no match for them, he would definitely have room to escape. But now he learned that Shimin Longxiang was still in Tai sect. Shimin Longxiang was a monster. 1,000 years ago he was worried that a genius like Shimin Longxiang would appear in Tai sect and be a great threat to the Tianlong clan, so he sent people to assassinate Shimin Longxiang. However, because Tai sect was very protective of Shimin Longxiang, not only did the people he sent not succeed but they also almost died. 1,000 years ago, when Shimin Longxiang was only a mid-level God King, he was recognized as the strongest person in Tai sect below the God Emperor realm. Now, 1,000 years have passed and he's only 6,000 years old, so it's only a matter of time before he breaks through to become a high-level God King. Moreover, he must have heard of Duan Lingtian's strength. Under such circumstances, he still dares to think about killing Duan Lingtian. He's obviously very confident in himself. Long Qingchong took a deep breath and issued a series of orders, all of which were directly transmitted to the masters and elders of the Tianlong clan's God Kings. Find Duan Lingtian at all costs and escort him out of the God King battlefield. He can't die in Shimin Longxiang's hands. In Long Qingchong's opinion, even if Duan Lingtian did not stay in the Tianlong clan in the future, given his close relationship with some Tianlong clan members, he would not forget about the Tianlong clan if he achieved great things in the future. Most importantly, Long Qingchong's God Kings were the strongest. Elder White Dragon Xue Haichuan, who was on good terms with Duan Lingtian, was one of the candidates in Long Qingchong's mind. Moreover, he favored Xue Haichuan the most among them. Given Xue Haichuan's relationship with Duan Lingtian, if Xue Haichuan became the Tianlong clan's patriarch, even if Duan Lingtian was not in the Tianlong clan, he was bound to be tied to the Tianlong clan. Following Long Qingchong's orders, some of the Tianlong clan's God King disciples who had yet to enter the Emperor battle realm also made their move. Among them there was no lack of Azure Dragon disciples. Shimin Longxiang is still in the Greater One sect? Let's join forces and enter the battlefield to look for Duan Ling Tian. Otherwise, if we encounter Shimin Longxiang before we find Duan Ling Tian, I'm afraid we'll be in trouble. Indeed. After 1,000 years, Shimin Longxiang's strength must have become even stronger. This group of Sky Dragon Sect's Divine King disciples were the best of the best. None of them charged into the Divine King battlefield alone. Almost all of them were forming small teams. Duan Ling Tian, who was in the battlefield, naturally did not know about this. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian was wandering around the battlefield. There was nothing special about the battlefield of the God Kings. There were mountains, rivers, basins, plains, deserts, and there were even some ruins of cities. Naturally, the city ruins were only illusions. However, many of the landforms were real. I wonder how big the battlefield is. It's been a few days since I came here. Apart from encountering a group of God Kings from the Tianlong clan, I haven't encountered another group of people. Duan Ling Tian flew in the sky above a lofty mountain range. It was extremely high profile, but at the same time, it was also slightly boring. After all, he entered the battlefield to kill the Greater One Sect's disciples. But until now, he had not seen a single Greater One Sect disciple. But it's normal. After all, most of the Greater One Sect's disciples have formed teams of many people. Under such circumstances, it's almost impossible to encounter a lone Greater One Sect disciple. If I hadn't released them before, I would definitely have encountered many lone Greater One Sect disciples. Chapter 38-48. Just as Duan Ling Tian was lamenting that he had been too high profile and that he had shot himself in the foot. In front of where Duan Ling Tian was heading, 10,000 miles away, there was also a group of people rushing in the direction of Duan Ling Tian. This time, if we can meet that Duan Ling Tian and kill him, we'll make a killing. 200,000 contribution points, that's no joke. In the group, a young man grinned very brightly. That's natural. 200,000 contribution points, even if the 20 of us split it equally, each of us will have 10,000 contribution points. Another person also laughed. Speaking of which, we've been a little too careful. 8 upper God Kings and 12 middle God Kings teaming up to kill a middle God King. If this were to spread out, I'm afraid we'd be laughed at. Another person said with a bitter smile. Don't underestimate Duan Ling Tian just because he's a middle God King. Duan Ling Tian, although he hasn't broken through to become an upper God King, his battle strength is definitely one of the best among God Kings. Even the strongest upper God Kings in our Greater One Sect may not be able to defeat him, let alone kill him. Even if it's any one of the strongest upper God Kings in our Greater One Sect, once surrounded by us, it'll be difficult for them to escape death. The battlefield of God Kings is very big. If we want to meet that Duan Ling Tian, it'll depend on our luck. The group continued to move forward. After a period of time, the sharp-eyed people in the group saw a little black dot in front of them. There's someone there. The moment the others came back to their senses, they saw that the little black dot in the distance was constantly growing bigger, and finally turned into a purple-clothed young man, appearing not far from them. People from the Greater One Sect? Duan Ling Tian looked at the group in front of him, and his eyes suddenly lit up. 20 people can complete 1/5 of the target. 20 Greater One Sect disciples. Duan Ling Tian suddenly felt that the torturous wait of the past few days was completely worth it. And while Duan Ling Tian was sizing up the group of Greater One Sect disciples in front of him, the eyes of the Greater One Sect disciples also fell on Duan Ling Tian. It's the Tianlong clan. Look at the badge he's wearing, he's Duan Ling Tian. What? He is Duan Ling Tian? I thought it was a lone disciple of the Tianlong clan who was in a hurry to enter the Deity King realm as soon as the Emperor Battle realm opened. I didn't expect it to be Duan Ling Tian. Ha! I'm rich. The 20 Greater One Sect disciples, after confirming that the purple-clad youth in front of them was Duan Ling Tian, one by one their eyes lit up, like a pack of wolves that had finally seen their prey after many days of hunger. Naturally, Duan Ling Tian heard the excited cheers of the Greater One Sect disciples. For a moment, the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. It was not certain who was the hunter and who was the hunted. In the Emperor Battle realm, spatial rings are not self-destructing. Let's hope one of the 20 Greater One Sect disciples has something in their spatial rings that I'm interested in. Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart as he secretly prayed. Ever since Duan Ling Tian came to the realm of gods, he had almost no chance of obtaining any spoils of war. This was because the spatial rings of the people he killed would self-destruct as well. When the spatial rings self-destructed, The items in the spatial ring would enter the turbulent space and scatter in every corner of the world. Some would remain in the turbulent space. Some would be destroyed in the turbulent space. Surround him. He's skilled in the law of space. The few of you are skilled in the law of space. Disrupt the surrounding space so he can't teleport. As long as we restrict his teleportation, he will definitely die if he goes up into the sky or down into the ground. Just as the corners of Duan Lingtian's mouth curled up, the 20 Greater One Sect disciples had already dashed out and surrounded him. A few of the Greater One Sect disciples who were skilled in the law of space used their divine power and the law of space to disrupt the surrounding space. In an unstable space, it was impossible to use teleportation techniques. Kill him. The group of Greater One Sect disciples was afraid that the situation would change if they delayed any longer. Therefore, after surrounding Duan Lingtian, they immediately attacked Duan Lingtian without holding back. Those who had high-grade divine artifacts took out their high-grade divine artifacts. Some of them not only had a high-grade divine artifact in their hands, but they also had a pair of high-grade divine artifact boots on their feet, which increased their speed to a certain extent. Apart from a few Greater One Sect disciples who were skilled in the law of space who stood in place to disrupt the surrounding space and prevent Duan Lingtian from teleporting, the rest of them attacked Duan Lingtian together. Boom. Rumble. Whoosh. Whoosh. Accompanied by a series of roaring explosions in the void, as well as the sound of stormy waves, more than a dozen Greater One Sect disciples attacked. The power of various laws merged into their divine power, turning into a multicolored power that shook the void and swept toward Duan Lingtian from all directions. In an instant, the entire void seemed to be covered by this power, and the space began to tremble as if it could shatter at any time. Duan Lingtian, thank you for the contribution points. Ha! The eyes of the Greater One Sect disciples lit up at the same time as they attacked, and many of them shouted excitedly, as if they had already seen the scene of Duan Lingtian being killed by them. No one can spy on the Divine King battlefield of the Emperor battle plane, and no one can spy on it. It won't even form a formation mirror image. In the face of more than a dozen Greater One Sect disciples, Duan Lingtian's expression was indifferent, and at the same time he said unhurriedly, "Here, I don't need to worry. As long as I have the confidence to keep all of you here." Duan Lingtian seemed to be muttering to himself, but his voice was not soft, and it fell into the ears of the 20 Greater One Sect disciples. However, when they heard Duan Lingtian's words, the 20 Greater One Sect disciples all sneered. At this time, you still have the mood to boast shamelessly. Keep all of us here? If you can keep even one of us here, you have the ability. Ridiculous. In the face of a group of Greater One Sect disciples' ridicule, Duan Lingtian's expression did not change, but the divine power in his body had already risen abruptly when their attacks approached. Waves of terrifying space storms also formed in an instant, sweeping around Duan Lingtian and enveloping the attacks of more than a dozen people. Many people's attacks were directly crushed. The attacks of the remaining High God Kings were also suppressed, but they weren't crushed. Whoosh. However, as Duan Lingtian casually waved his hand, a gray sword light flashed, and directly destroyed the few attacks that were suppressed. Then the space storm on Duan Lingtian's body suddenly erupted. The few mid-level divine kings closest to him did not even have the chance to react, and were crushed into a bloody mist by the space storm, leaving only a few storage rings that Duan Lingtian casually took. Whoosh. When the others were shocked by the scene in front of them, their faces changed greatly, and they were dumbstruck. Duan Lingtian's entire body was like a cannonball condensed by the power of space, suddenly whistling out and crashed into the crowd. The next moment, another 5 mid-level divine kings who could not dodge in time were killed by the space storm. The raging space storm, mixed with the fusion of the 4 profound meanings of the space law, and the condensed power that filled the void, caused the surrounding space to tremble with its turbulence. I can't disturb this space. Damn it. What's going on? Could this be the Tao of control of the 4 Taos of heaven and earth? Duan Lingtian has mastered the Tao of control, or else how could he control this space so casually? The few Greater One Sect disciples who were disrupting this space all changed their expressions. They were proficient in the space law and teleportation was not difficult for them. But now, when they tried to teleport, they found that the entire space had been sealed. In an undisturbed space, they were unable to teleport, as if the teleportation door had been locked by someone, and they were deprived of the right to enter. For a moment, the few people subconsciously looked at Duan Lingtian, and their eyes simultaneously revealed waves of panic. After a moment of panic, there was regret on his face. This Duan Ling Tian is already a high-level divine king. He has mastered the Tao of control of the 4 Taos of heaven and earth. The space law he has comprehended is even more powerful than the rumors say. Even without divine weapons, he has the ability to kill all of us. Run. If anyone escapes, leave the battlefield of the divine kings immediately and report to the sect. Don't enter the battlefield of the divine kings again. The expressions of the surviving high-level divine kings changed drastically, and at the same time, they all made the same decision. Run. Now Duan Ling Tian had not used the divine weapon, and he had displayed such a terrifying strength. What if he used the divine weapon? They were afraid that he could kill them all with just a few strokes of his sword. Run. Duan Ling Tian smiled faintly, and then in the instant that the remaining dozen or so Greater One Sect disciples scattered in all directions, streaks of rainbow sword light flew out from his body, like rainbow-colored meteors streaking across the sky. Shio, 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 shio. More than 10 rainbow sword lights streaked across the sky. In the next moment, the few low-level divine kings among the dozen or so Greater One Sect disciples who had scattered in all directions were directly killed by the rainbow sword light, falling one after another. As for the remaining high-level divine kings, after being caught by the rainbow sword light, they did not dare to escape anymore. They all stopped and tried their best to resist the rainbow sword light. However, even if they managed to block the rainbow sword light, they still suffered heavy injuries. The weaker ones spurted blood from their mouths, and even the stronger ones had their faces alternating between green and white. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Duan Ling Tian's figure changed several times, and every time he changed he would appear in front of a Greater One Sect disciple. In less than 10 breaths of time, the remaining Supreme First Sect's disciples, whether they did not have the time to defend themselves or those who reacted in time, were all killed by Duan Ling Tian's sword without exception. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian was holding a sword in his hand, a sword that was intertwined with 7 colors. Chapter 38-49. From the time that the Greater One Sect disciples surrounded Duan Ling Tian to the time that Duan Ling Tian completely annihilated them, the whole process was in fact less than 10 breaths of time. Of the 20 Greater One Sect disciples, apart from those who died for unknown reasons, the remaining people could be said to have experienced great joy and great sorrow in these 10 breaths of time. Originally, they all thought that they were lucky to have encountered Duan Ling Tian. They all felt that, with their combined strength, as long as they restricted Duan Ling Tian's teleportation, they would definitely be able to kill Duan Ling Tian and obtain the 200,000 contribution points the sect master had set as a reward. Of course, this was because they still did not know that the reward for Duan Ling Tian had risen from 200,000 contribution points to 300,000 contribution points. All this was because Duan Ling Tian's high-level God King cultivation base had been revealed. And these 20 Greater One Sect disciples had already entered the battlefield of God Kings to search for Duan Ling Tian before that. At first, they were overjoyed, thinking that 200,000 contribution points were within their reach. But later, after witnessing the scene of Duan Ling Tian killing so many people in an instant, they realized how naive they were. Duan Ling Tian was even more terrifying than the rumors. In fact, the real Duan Ling Tian, compared to the rumors, was simply a demon. At least that was what they thought. They did not want to face this demon who made them unable to arouse any fighting spirit. They only had one thought, and that was to escape from this demon-controlled land. However, in the end they were unable to escape and all remained here. The harvest is not bad. Although there is nothing that I want, there are a lot of divine stones and divine crystals. Duan Ling Tian put away the relics left behind by the 20 Greater One Sect disciples. 20 storage rings that did not self-destruct, as well as the divine weapons that they used, which were basically all high-grade divine weapons. In total there were close to 20 of them. Of course, the most important thing is still these 20 identity badges. These are all battle merits. After putting away the storage rings and high-grade divine weapons, Duan Ling Tian casually waved his hand, and the identity badges of the 20 Greater One Sect disciples that he killed in the Emperor Battle Plane appeared in his hands. The battle merits of the Emperor Battle Plane must be exchanged with these identity badges. Naturally, since there were many things he wanted to exchange for in Peace City, he needed a lot of battle merits as well. Due to this reason, Duan Ling Tian did not think much of the battle merits he could obtain from the 20 Supreme Sect's identity badges. Let's continue. I hope that the following Greater One Sect disciples can give me some pressure. Otherwise, it won't have much effect on my cultivation. Furthermore, if they are strong enough, I won't be able to use my full strength if I don't have the confidence to keep them all here. Thinking of the previous scene, Duan Lingtian lightly shook his head. The reason why everything went so smoothly was mostly because those people were too weak, so he had full confidence in keeping them here. Therefore he did not intend to keep his strength. In any case, in the battlefield of the Divine Kings, it was very private. As long as no one deliberately recorded the floating image pearl, no one would discover his true means. Of course, if the supreme experts who set up the formation of the battlefield of the Divine Kings wanted to, they would definitely have seen the scene just now. But even if they saw it, it was nothing. Could it be that an utmost powerful being would kill you just because you were talented and had a good comprehension ability? He was thinking too much. In the eyes of the supreme experts, no matter how talented an existence was, as long as they did not become supreme experts, they were like ants, unable to withstand a single blow and not worth mentioning. However, this group of Greater One Sect disciples should have entered the battlefield of the Divine Kings before the news of me becoming a high-level Divine King spread. Otherwise, they would not have dared to enter with so little strength. Recalling the scene just now and thinking of the strength of this group of Greater One Sect disciples, it was not difficult for Duan Lingtian to guess this point. Next, I should be able to encounter some stronger groups of Greater One Sect disciples. Duan Lingtian thought. Following that, Duan Lingtian continued to wander around the battlefield of the Divine Kings. The battlefield of the Divine Kings was different from the divine dwellings and divine treasures left behind by the experts of the realms of gods. This was just a newly opened realm enveloped by a formation plate refined by the supreme experts. There were no treasures inside, and it was impossible for there to be any. This was the meat grinder between the two forces participating in the war of the supreme gods. It was the meat grinder between the two divine kings. In this place, either you killed your opponent or your opponent killed you. In this place there were no grievances, good or bad people. Those who came here were either forced by the forces behind them and were driven here by the general trend, or they came here to train themselves. For example, the disciples of Divine Emperor level sects like the Tianlong clan and Greater One Sect. When they were outside, ordinary forces would not dare to provoke them unless they were confident that they could keep them here without leaking any information. Otherwise they would not easily take the risk. Further up, there were several top Divine Emperor level forces in Tunglung province, and some Divine Emperor level forces with Divine Emperor experts. The disciples of the Tianlong clan and Greater One Sect were not foolish enough to provoke them. In addition, there were few disputes of interest between them, so they lived in peace for many years. This created a peaceful scene, and at the same time, it made the disciples of Divine Emperor level sects like the Tianlong clan and Greater One Sect lose some of their sharpness. Experts were born from fighting and fighting. The Tianlong clan and Greater One Sect had not produced a Divine Emperor expert for so many years. Although there was a limit to their talent and comprehension, the main reason was that their disciples were living too comfortably. Because of this, whether it was the War of the Supreme Gods, the War of the Supreme Gods, or the War of the Supreme Gods, it was never a showdown between experts. It was always a battle between disciples of different cultivation realms. This kind of showdown between factions would either not start, or if it started, it would affect the whole situation. No one could stay out of it. Although the Divine Spirit disciples of the Tianlong clan and Greater One Sect did not need to enter the War of the Supreme Gods, how long could they live in peace? Generally, War of the Supreme Gods would last for many years. The shortest was 100 years, the longest was 1,000 years. If they could not break through to the Divine King realm within a few decades, they might be kicked out of the sect. And if they stepped into the Divine King realm, they would still have to enter the War of the Supreme Gods. Greater One City, the entrance to the War of the Divine Kings. Not only were there a group of God King disciples of the Greater One Sect gathered here, but there were also a few elders of the Greater One Sect. Their duty was to save the disciples of the Greater One Sect when the people of the Sky Dragon Sect came out to hunt them down. The fighting inside the War of the Divine Kings could be brought out. Some people who were suppressed and on the verge of death would also choose to escape from the War of the Divine Kings. At that time, their opponents would definitely pursue them relentlessly and would not give up until they killed them. Under such circumstances, it was very likely that they would kill their way out of the War of the Divine Kings. In the history of the realms of gods, there were many disciples of divine emperors who were killed by their opponents after escaping from the War of the Divine Kings. Of course, the opponents would not dare to chase too far after they left the War of the Divine Kings. At most, they would kill their opponents nearby and return to the War of the Divine Kings. This way, the opponents would not be able to follow them in. Of course, very few people dared to take such a risk a long time ago because many people were killed by the opponents when they chased after their opponents. Crack, 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 crack. Following a series of crisp cracking sounds, the expressions of the Greater One Sect elders standing guard at the entrance of the War of the Divine Kings in Greater One City changed drastically. Every Divine King disciple of Greater One Sect who entered the War of the Divine Kings would leave their soul orbs here before they entered. The soul orbs of the members of each group would be placed together, and the corresponding name would be carved below the soul orbs. Currently, the 20 soul orbs that were placed together on a wooden shelf had all shattered within the span of 10 breaths. The complexion of a Greater One Sect elder changed dramatically, his eyes almost popping out of their sockets. He flew forward, staring at the fragmented soul bead on the wooden shelf engraved with the name Yuan Kuan. Because of his agitation, his body was violently trembling. Waves of terrifying divine energy swept out from his body, pressuring the other Divine King disciples of Greater One Sect who were present. They're all dead. Yuan Kuan is also dead. Yuan Kuan is Elder Zhang Yuhui's youngest disciple. He's Elder Zhang Yuhui's favorite disciple. Elder Zhang Yuhui, I wouldn't be able to accept it if he saw his disciple's soul orb shatter while he's on duty. 20 Godly King's disciples were killed. Did they encounter a large group of Godly King's disciples from the Sky Dragon sect? Could it be that they encountered Duan Lingtian? I remember. Yuan Kuan and his 20 people entered the Divine King battlefield before the news spread that Duan Lingtian was a higher Divine King. Although Duan Lingtian is a higher Divine King, Yuan Kuan and his 20 people aren't weak. Even if they encountered Duan Lingtian, they shouldn't be completely annihilated, right? Maybe. Duan Lingtian has his own group? Impossible. The Tianlong clan has already sent news that Duan Lingtian entered the Divine King battlefield alone. Of course, we can't rule out the possibility that the Tianlong clan's group was nearby when he encountered Yuan Kuan and his group and helped him kill them. The surrounding God King disciples whispered to each other as they voiced their own guesses. At this time, several Greater One Sect elders who were also on duty spoke up to Consul Zhang Yuhui, who was also an inner sect elder of Greater One Sect. My condolences, Elder Zhang. Elder Zhang, the Tianlong clan killed your disciple. Go back to the Divine King battlefield and kill the Tianlong clan's Divine King for revenge. Elder Zhang. Under the comforting words of the Greater One Sect elders, Zhang Yuhui gradually recovered and said in a hoarse voice, "Everyone, I'm fine. The Divine King battlefield is a slaughterhouse. My useless disciple died in there because he was weak and unlucky." Of course, although he said this, the fire of hatred in Zhang Yuhui's eyes burned brighter and brighter. Chapter 3850. As the news of the battle at the entrance of Tai City spread, the people of Tai sect who were in Tai City were the first to receive the news, and they were all shocked. Soon someone went out to deliver the news. At the same time, the Tianlong clan also received the news. Tai sect's team of 20 people, including many high-level God Kings, was completely annihilated? Was it done by our Tianlong clan? Unlike the gloomy atmosphere on Tai sect's side, the Tianlong clan's side cheered after a brief moment of shock, and their morale was greatly boosted. Did any of our Tianlong clan's God Kings die in the Battle of the God Kings? Soon people began to pay attention to this point. Many people even went to the entrance of the Tianlong clan's God King battlefield, only to see that the soul orbs of the God Kings who entered were unscathed and had not shattered. None of our Tianlong clan's God Kings who entered the Battle of the God Kings died. No, didn't Duan Lingtian go in? He didn't leave behind a soul orb? Leaving behind a soul orb doesn't seem to be mandatory. Most people who enter will leave behind a soul orb, but he didn't. It's obvious that he's confident in his own strength. Our Tianlong clan should have someone with Duan Lingtian's soul orb. Whether Duan Lingtian is alive or not, why don't we just ask them? Not long after, someone confirmed that Duan Lingtian's soul orb was unscathed from the White Dragon Elder Dongfang Yannian, who was on good terms with Duan Lingtian. For a moment, the Tianlong clan was completely sure. None of the Tianlong clan's God King disciples who entered the Battle of the God Kings had died, and they were all safe and sound. While the Tianlong clan's morale was greatly boosted, the news also spread to Tai sect. For a moment, Tai sect was gloomy from top to bottom. 20 God King disciples had died, but not a single person from the opposing faction had died. This was undoubtedly a huge blow to Tai sect. Especially those disciples who had not yet entered the Battle of the God Kings, their morale plummeted. Many people who had already decided to enter stopped in their tracks at this time. After we go in, will we follow in their footsteps? I don't want to die. Let's find a few more people to go in. It's safer with more people. Even if it takes longer to complete the minimum mission, I'll accept it. That's right. Let's find more people. I think that team is pretty good. They're also recruiting. Why don't we go over and join them? More and more people who entered the Battle of the God Kings to enter the Battle of God Kings to enter the Battle of the God Kings to enter the Battle of the God Kings. Occasionally a few teams as God Kings to God Kings were only God to enter the Battle of the God Kings to enter the Battle of the God Kings God. Whether it was Tai sect or the Tianlong clan, there were actually many people who had stagnated in the God King realm. However, because most of them were too old, they had been in closed-door cultivation and rarely appeared in front of others. Therefore, many of the younger generation disciples had never seen them or even known of their existence. Because of this, whether it was the people of the Greater One sect or the Sky Dragon sect, there were many new faces with extraordinary cultivation bases in the Emperor Battle Plain. Most of these people were high God Kings. Of course, there was no lack of low and middle God Emperors. These people, because facing the 1,000-year heavenly tribulation was already very difficult for them, so they were usually in closed-door cultivation in order to break through. The opening of the God King's battle plane this time was the greatest opportunity for them, so no one was willing to miss it. Therefore, among them, except for some who were at a critical juncture in their cultivation, the rest all entered the God King's battle plane. Low and middle God Emperors entered the battlefield of the God Kings. High God Kings entered the battlefield of the God Kings. Duan Ling Tian did not know that the 20 Tai sect disciples he killed had caused a great disturbance outside. Now he was continuing to wander around the battlefield of the God Kings, looking for Tai sect disciples. 100 Tai sect disciples. If I go back on my words, I'm afraid I will be laughed at by the people of Tai sect. In the blink of an eye, another few days passed. Duan Ling Tian did not encounter a second batch of Tai sect disciples, and not to mention groups of Tai sect disciples, he did not even encounter a single Tai sect disciple. Of course, Duan Ling Tian also knew that the probability of encountering a single Tai sect disciple was not higher than encountering a group of Tai sect disciples. Because before he said that he would kill 100 Tai sect disciples in the God King's battle plane, there should not be many Tai sect disciples who entered the God King's battle plane. On this day, Duan Ling Tian, as usual, was flying over a mountain range on the battlefield of the God Kings. All along he could be said to be swaggering. If someone from Tai sect found him, they would definitely not let him go. Suddenly, as if sensing something, Duan Ling Tian's eyes narrowed. His ears twitching, Duan Ling Tian disappeared in a flash, and when he reappeared, he was already very far away. After a few teleportations, Duan Ling Tian appeared in the sky above a grassland. At this moment, in the void in front of him, there were two groups of people fighting fiercely, and one side obviously had the upper hand. Retreat. A middle-aged man wearing the identity badge of a high God King of the Tianlong clan suddenly shouted. Suddenly, a group of Tianlong clan disciples retreated. They were already at a disadvantage, and now that they wanted to escape, they were naturally more passive. Ha! All of you stay. A young man wearing the identity badge of a high God King of the Tai sect laughed loudly, and the 7-feet-long spear in his hand shook the void. Suddenly, a dazzling spear light appeared and streaked across the sky. The terrifying golden light, emitting waves of incomparably fierce aura, swept straight towards a mid-god king of the Tianlong clan. Whoosh! Duan Ling Tian flashed and teleported in front of the mid-god king of the Tianlong clan, whose face was filled with despair. He casually raised his hand, and the high-grade divine sword released a dazzling sword light, and a devastating spatial storm blocked the incoming spear light. Phew! The Tianlong clan disciple, who had luckily escaped death, breathed a sigh of relief, and when he looked at the purple figure in front of him again, he repeatedly "Thank you for saving my life, senior brother." In this place, only a fellow disciple of the Tianlong clan could save him. At the same time, many Tianlong clan disciples cried out in surprise. It's Duan Ling Tian. It really is Duan Ling Tian. The eyes of the Tianlong clan group lit up when they saw Duan Ling Tian. Pill Master Duan. The middle-aged man who was clearly the leader of the Tianlong clan group, in addition to wearing the Tianlong clan's High God King badge unique to the Emperor battle plane, also had a Tianlong clan deacon identity badge hanging from his waist. At this moment, he was looking at Duan Ling Tian with a pleasantly surprised expression. The spoils of war, I want half of their identity badges. Duan Ling Tian looked at the middle-aged man and said calmly. Although the strength of the Tai sect disciples in front of him was clearly stronger than the team he had destroyed a few days ago, if he attacked with all his strength, he was still confident that he could wipe them all out. But now, in addition to a group of Tai sect disciples, there was also a group of Tianlong clan people present. Under the watchful eyes of so many people, he naturally couldn't completely reveal his strength, unless he also silenced the group of people from the Sky Dragon sect. Okay. The middle-aged man nodded immediately. The moment Duan Lingtian spoke, he understood the meaning of Duan Lingtian's words. Okay. At the same time Duan Lingtian responded, the sword in his hand shook, and a space storm instantly disturbed the surrounding space, making it impossible for the Tai sect disciples who were proficient in space laws to escape by teleportation. Kill them. At the same time, the middle-aged man who was the leader of the Tianlong clan group, a deacon of the Tianlong clan, suddenly let out a soft cry. In an instant, the group of Tianlong clan disciples attacked. Just now they were fleeing. But now, with Duan Lingtian as their backup, they were like injected with chicken blood, as if they wanted to return the humiliation they had suffered to the Tai sect group. The group of Tai sect disciples, as soon as they learned of Duan Lingtian's identity, were staring at Duan Lingtian with glowing eyes. Duan Lingtian was worth 300,000 contribution points. Their total contribution points were less than 300,000. As long as they could kill Duan Lingtian, even if it was divided equally, each of them could get more than 10,000 contribution points. Of course, a moment later when they realized that Duan Lingtian was not alone, and that there was also a group of people from the Tianlong clan, they suddenly sobered up, as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over their heads. The moment they sobered up, Duan Lingtian had already interfered with the surrounding space. Not good. By the time the people of Tai sect came to their senses, the people of the Tianlong clan, including the outer sect deacon, had already attacked the people of Tai sect without holding back. They were even fighting with a risking their lives style. And the people of Tai sect, while passively resisting and defending, did not fight back because they were now very nervous. They were confident that they could keep some of the disciples of the Tianlong clan. But, in terms of strength, they were not much worse than them. But now the other side had Duan Lingtian as their backup. Gather. Let's go together. Even if they have Duan Lingtian, do they still want to stop us from leaving? A high-level god king of Tai sect said coldly. And the moment the others heard his words, their eyes lit up. I don't know about the others, but I think I can still stop your footsteps. The moment this voice reached everyone's ears, they saw a purple figure appear in front of the high-level god king of Tai sect who was giving orders just now. And the purple figure casually landed a palm on his body, and a terrifying space storm condensed sword light penetrated his body, causing his body to shatter in the blink of an eye. The bloody mist scattered with the wind, hitting the faces of the nearby disciples of Tai sect, dazzling and eye-catching. Run! Run! The remaining disciples of Tai sect were originally preparing to gather, but now that Duan Lingtian had killed their commander, they were suddenly in complete chaos, like a plate of loose sand. Chapter 38:51. The group of Greater One Sect disciples were now not only like a plate of loose sand, but also had no fighting spirit, and had no intention of fighting with the Tianlong clan disciples. Therefore they were soon completely passive. Even though later, some people saw their companions being killed and began to fight desperately, it was already too late. The Tianlong clan disciples had already killed many Greater One Sect disciples, and the number of Tianlong clan disciples left was far greater than the number of Greater One Sect disciples that were still alive. Then, with the advantage of numbers, coupled with the imposing manner of the Tianlong clan disciples, the Greater One Sect disciples were quickly slaughtered. Naturally, during this process, there were a few disciples from the Supreme Sect who almost escaped. It was Duan Lingtian who made his move at the critical moment and killed them. From the Tianlong clan disciples taking the lead to attack to the end, it took at most 20 breaths of time. After more than 20 breaths of time, everything was settled. The Greater One Sect disciples were all wiped out. On the side of the Tianlong clan disciples, only a few people were injured, and they were only minor injuries. Alchemist Duan, if it weren't for you, even if some of us could escape, many of us would have died. The leader of the 23-people team from the Tianlong clan, a middle-aged man who was the outer sect deacon of the Tianlong clan, bowed to Duan Lingtian to express his gratitude. Thank you for your help, Alchemist Duan. Thank you, Alchemist Duan. Thank you, Senior Brother Duan. As the middle-aged man bowed to Duan Lingtian to express his gratitude, the rest of the people also bowed to Duan Lingtian to express their gratitude. You don't need to thank me, I didn't do it for nothing. Duan Lingtian shook his head and said. At this time, under the middle-aged man's signal, The several Tianlong clan disciples who were responsible for collecting the spoils of war just now handed over all the spoils of war to the middle-aged man. There were 28 storage rings and 32 high-grade divine tools. Alchemist Duan, we don't know what's in these storage rings. You can blindly choose 14 of them. As for these 32 high-grade divine artifacts, Pillmaster Duan, you can choose 16 of them. The middle-aged man looked at Duan Lingtian and said. Before Duan Lingtian could respond, he looked at the others and asked, "You guys don't have any objections, right?" Hearing this, everyone hurriedly shook their heads. Naturally, they had no objections to this. Even if there were a few people who felt that Duan Lingtian was asking for too much, it was just a thought in their hearts. If they said it out loud at this time, they would definitely become the target of public criticism. The gains would not make up for the losses. Moreover, if it wasn't for Duan Lingtian's help today, they wouldn't have gotten any benefits and might even have lost some of their lives here. All in all, even if the Duan Lingtian took half of the spoils, they still profited. Let's work together again in the future. Duan Lingtian casually gestured with his hand and put away his portion of the spoils. After that, he left behind a few words, and before everyone could recover from their shock, he'd already teleported and vanished on the spot. When everyone came back to their senses and looked around, they could no longer see any trace of Duan Lingtian. At this time, the deacon of the outer sect spoke up. Find a place to rest and recover, then head back. Try your best to intercept and kill some Greater One sect disciples nearby. With this harvest, we're not far from completing the minimum mission. As for the others, they naturally had no objections. Of course, in their private conversations, the topic never left Duan Lingtian. Do you think Duan Lingtian can break through and become a God Emperor before 10,000 years old? God Emperor? Aren't you thinking too much? He's only a higher divine king now, right? Don't forget, he's not even 3,000 years old. This time, 28 Greater One sect disciples have died, but not a single one of our Tianlong clan has died. I'm afraid it'll cause quite a stir outside. A Tianlong clan disciple said with a smile. And his words also received the approval of the others. That's natural. However, since no one on our side has died, the Greater One sect spies in our Tianlong clan have to send the news back. I suddenly feel that it's a good thing that the Greater One sect has planted a spy in our Tianlong clan. Otherwise, I'm really worried that the Greater One sect won't know that 28 of their disciples have died, but not a single one of our Tianlong clan has died. That's right. I used to think that if I knew who the Greater One sect spy was, I definitely wouldn't let him go. But now, I suddenly feel that the Greater One sect spy doesn't seem so annoying anymore. At this moment, the disciples of the Tianlong clan did not know that just a few days ago, 20 Greater One sect disciples had died in the battlefield of Divine Kings, and at that time, not a single person of the Tianlong clan had died. For the people of the Greater One sect, they already had experience. However, even though they had experience, when the elder on duty at the entrance of the Greater One sect stronghold of the Greater One sect in the Emperor battle plain discovered that the 28 soul beads that were placed together had all shattered, his expression changed greatly. Another 28 divine kings have died. Heavens! These people, they seem to be in a team? Were they all wiped out? How many people of the Tianlong clan have died? Greater One city was in an uproar, Greater One sect was in an uproar. And with the news from the Tianlong clan that no one from the Tianlong clan had died, many of the Greater One sect's higher-ups almost vomited blood in anger. But the Greater One sect master's side was strangely quiet. Although the sect master's side was quiet, the people of the Greater One sect understood that this was just the calm before the storm. As expected. 3 days later, the Greater One sect master ordered that all the disciples of the Divine Kings who had not yet entered the Emperor battle plain, regardless of their cultivation base, were to form a team. To be more precise, they were to form a team similar to an army. And the leaders of this team, the Greater One sect master personally named 3 people. 2 of them were core disciples of the Greater One sect, and 1 was an outer sect deacon of the Greater One sect. These 3 people were all outstanding higher god emperors of the Greater One sect, and it just so happened that they had not yet entered the God King battlefield. Immediately, a huge team of over 100 people from the Greater One sect entered the Emperor battle plain in a grandiose manner. The Greater One sect master ordered, this Greater One sect's team of over 100 God Kings, if they do not kill all the people of the Tianlong clan, none of them are allowed to leave the God King battlefield. Otherwise they will be killed without mercy. In the team of over 100 God Kings, although the majority of them were not willing to be controlled like this, they had no choice but to face the situation. After entering the God King battlefield, not to mention killing the enemy. Even if it was to survive, they had to risk their lives. The Greater One Sect Master ordered that the remaining disciples of the Greater One Sect who have not yet entered the God King battlefield, to form a team of over 100 people, led by 3 outstanding higher God Kings, and enter the God King battlefield to slaughter the disciples of the Tianlong clan. When this news was passed back to the Tianlong clan was also in turmoil. Especially the group of God King disciples who had not yet entered the God King battlefield, they were all in danger. Some of them even entered the Emperor battle plane at the first moment, preparing to join a few others to enter the God King battlefield before the Greater One Sect Master gave the order. This way they could come out whenever they wanted. They were all worried that the Greater One Sect Master of the Tianlong clan would also give the same order as the Greater One Sect Master. They formed a large team of God Kings, and were not allowed to come out until they had killed 100 Greater One Sect disciples. However, their actions were still too late in the end. The entrance to the God King battlefield in Sky Dragon City was sealed, and no one was allowed to enter. The Greater One Sect Master has ordered that the entrance to the God King battlefield be temporarily sealed. All God King disciples who have not yet entered the God King battlefield are to form a team and enter the God King battlefield to kill the Greater One Sect disciples. As long as they kill 100 people, everyone in this team will be considered to have passed the minimum mission for the past 3 years. If anyone dares to desert, as long as they are reported and confirmed, not only will they be sentenced to death, but they will also implicate their blood relatives. The Tianlong clan did not say that the God King disciples who had formed a large team to enter the God King battlefield could not leave until they had killed 100 people. Instead, they took out a practical reward for them. In addition, they also added a ruthless sentence to make this large team iron plate, and no one dared to desert. Kill. Soon, the Tianlong clan formed a team of over 100 God Kings and majestically rushed into the God King battlefield with murderous intent. There were 2 people in charge of this team. One of them had joined the Tianlong clan with Duanling Tian. She was Miss 7 from the 10,000 Flower Valley, a God King level sect. She was also the daughter of Shui Haichuan's old friend. Coincidentally, she had not entered the God King battlefield yet. 7th junior sister, if there's any danger, come to my side. I'll protect you. The person who led this group of 100 people with 7th young lady was a young man in embroidered clothes. The young man was thin and slender, and his appearance could be considered handsome. However, his eyes were extremely dishonest. He sized up 7th young lady from top to bottom, causing 7th young lady to repeatedly frown. Miss 7 ignored the young man's good intentions. 7th junior sister, I heard that no one in the Tianlong clan has seen you remove your veil. I wonder when you plan to remove your veil? The young man in embroidered clothes was not angry when he saw Miss 7 ignoring him. Instead, he continued to blabber on. At this moment, the hundreds of God King disciples behind them who had quieted down could not help but frown slightly. This was the person the sect had found to lead them? Shut up. Finally, Miss 7 could not take it anymore. She said coldly, don't talk to me if there's nothing serious. If you keep talking, I'll pluck your tongue out. If you keep looking around, I'll dig your eyes out. Miss 7's sudden outburst shocked everyone. Although he had long heard of this 7th young lady, wasn't she always known for being gentle and beautiful? She actually had such a strong side? The young man in embroidered clothes did not mind. A bright smile still hung on his face as he said, 7th junior sister, if you want to pluck my tongue out and dig my eyes out, you'll have to be stronger than me. You want to try? Miss 7's voice turned cold. At the same time, she stopped moving. The moment the young man in embroidered clothes stopped moving, the team of 100 also stopped at the entrance of the God King battlefield. Chapter 38:52. The young man in embroidered clothes was called Hui Yuan. He was the grandson of one of the Black Dragon elders in the Heavenly Dragon sect. He was also one of the Azure Dragon disciples in the Heavenly Dragon sect. He was only 9,000 years old, but he was already an outstanding superior divine king. Before Duanling Tian appeared, only a few people below the divine emperor level in the Tianlong clan could fight him to a draw. No one could defeat him. Because of this, Hui Yuan was not afraid of Miss 7. Also, Hui Yuan was a lecherous man. He had no resistance against good-looking women. For example, he had pursued all the good-looking female disciples in the Tianlong clan. Among them, there were some who got pregnant by him, but he forced them to abort their children. Because of this, Hui Yuan's reputation in the Tianlong clan was not very good. Although Miss 7 had only been in the Tianlong clan for a few years, she had heard some female disciples mention Hui Yuan, When those female disciples mentioned Hui Yuan, they would frown and show disgust. 7th junior sister, if you want to spar with me as your senior brother, I won't refuse. Hui Yuan was still smiling brightly. Senior brother who? At this time, a group of Tianlong clan disciples who were following behind could not stand it anymore. An inner sect disciple who was quite strong stepped forward and said with a slight frown, "We came here on a mission. If you and Miss Seven want to spar, there will be plenty of opportunities in the future. Now, if either of you is injured in the spar, you won't be the only ones who will suffer. We will suffer as well." As soon as the inner sect disciple spoke, a group of people immediately echoed his words. Not only were there people persuading Hui Yuan, but many others were also persuading Miss Seven. In the end, the two of them did not fight. Even Hui Yuan was afraid of angering the crowd. "Show some respect. Otherwise, I won't let you off even if I'm punished by the sect." The 7th young lady coldly swept a glance at Hui Yuan, causing the smile on Hui Yuan's face to become even more radiant. As his gaze shot out, waves of scorching flames burned within it. This woman was really arrogant. However, the more arrogant she was, the more interesting it was. If the woman was easy to get, it would be meaningless. 7th junior sister, there will be a day when you will wish that I would take a few more glances at you. Hui Yuan grinned. In your dreams. Miss Seven sneered disdainfully. At the same time, a purple figure involuntarily appeared in her mind. Ever since she had entered the Tianlong clan, other than Shui Haichuan, he was the only other person who had looked at her with a gaze as tranquil as an ancient well. They were both men, so why was there such a big difference? Sure enough, mother was right. There were no good men in this world. Duan Ling Tian continued to wander around the battlefield of the god kings of the Tianlong clan ever since he worked with them to destroy the Supreme First Sect's team. During this process, he encountered a few more groups of god kings from the Tianlong clan. In addition, he also encountered 2 disciples of the Supreme First Sect's god kings. The 2 of them were together, and it was obvious that they had entered the battlefield of the Supreme First Sect after the opening of the Emperor Battle Plain. When Duan Ling Tian discovered these 2 disciples of the Supreme First Sect, a team from the Tianlong clan had also discovered them. They wanted to compete with Duan Ling Tian, but in the face of Duan Ling Tian's profound teleportation, they were still half a beat too slow. Duan Ling Tian successfully obtained the spoils of war left behind by the 2 Supreme First Sect disciples and left. The people from the Tianlong clan could only shake their heads and sigh at their bad luck. They had not discovered the 2 people first and were responsible for killing them. As for the fact that Duan Ling Tian had killed the 2 of them first, they did not say anything even though they were a little unwilling. Not to mention Duan Ling Tian's extraordinary status in the Tianlong clan, Duan Ling Tian's current strength was so strong that they may not be able to do anything to him. Really unlucky to encounter Duan Ling Tian. If it weren't for Duan Ling Tian, those 2 people would have been our prey. Even after many days, there were still many people from the Tianlong clan who had been robbed by Duan Ling Tian. Of course, the reason they were complaining was because it was too boring. Ever since they were devoured by Duan Ling Tian, they had not encountered a single Greater One Sect's disciple. Have all the Greater One Sect's disciples gone into hiding? Even if it's a lone Supreme First Sect disciple, we don't mind. Can't one appear? It feels like our luck ran out that day, and the prey of that day has not been hunted by us. A group of people broke through the air. While they were bored, many people also began to communicate. In a few words, they were all complaining about why they had not encountered a Supreme First Sect disciple for so many days. And perhaps their prayers had worked. 10 days later, they finally encountered a Supreme First Sect disciple. A lone Supreme First Sect disciple. This Supreme First Sect disciple was standing over a dangerous peak in a mountain range, watching them from afar. Until they approached and surrounded him, there was still no movement. It was like he was stupid. The few of you who are good at the law of space disrupt the space, lest he is good at the law of space and teleport away. The leading disciple of the Tianlong clan bluntly ordered. Suddenly, the several people of the Tianlong clan who were good at the law of space began to disrupt the surrounding space, making it impossible for the people in the surrounding space to teleport. At this moment, the 32 disciples of the Tianlong clan were almost standing in all directions, surrounding the Supreme First Sect disciple in front of them. This Supreme First Sect disciple, dressed in a snow-white robe, had a handsome face. Facing the disciples of the Tianlong clan surrounding him, there was still a calm expression on his face. A moment later, when the divine power of many Tianlong clan disciples was rising, ready to move, the Supreme First Sect disciple opened his mouth, his tone cold and indifferent. If you can provide the whereabouts of Duan Ling Tian, I won't kill you. These words stunned all the disciples of the Tianlong clan. A moment later the crowd came back to their senses. When they looked at the Supreme First Sect disciple again, there was a change in their eyes. There was more fear and concern. Under normal circumstances, encountering such an insolent person, they would certainly think the other party was arrogant. But now, seeing that the other party had not changed his expression from beginning to end, and when he spoke, there was not the slightest sign of lack of confidence. In their minds, a name flashed almost at the same time. You are Shimin Longxiang? When the leading disciple of the Tianlong clan looked again at the white-clothed youth in front of him, his face was incomparably solemn. Although he was one of the best among the upper god kings of the Tianlong clan, except for Duan Ling Tian, he did not think that there was anyone in the god king realm who could defeat him. But, in the face of Shimin Longxiang, he still had to be wary. 1,000 years ago, when Shimin Longxiang was only a middle god king, he had defeated all the god kings of the Tianlong clan below the god emperor realm, and there was no lack of people who were not weaker than him. In other words, in a one-on-one fight, the Shimin Longxiang of 1,000 years ago may be able to defeat him now. And now, 1,000 years had passed, and with Shimin Longxiang's talent, there was almost no suspense in breaking through to the upper god king realm. In addition, the other party's comprehension was not bad, and perhaps his attainments in the law of wind had deepened. Shimin Longxiang. In fact, the group of Tianlong clan disciples present, when the white-clothed youth calmly threatened them, had vaguely guessed the other party's identity from his clothes. Shimin Longxiang, the top genius of the younger generation of the Greater One sect, liked to wear white, had a handsome appearance, sword-like eyebrows and a superior temperament. The white-clothed youth in front of them matched all of them. Coupled with his unquestionable confidence, they all felt that the person in front of them was most likely Shimin Longxiang of the Greater One sect. Yes. The white-clothed youth, Shimin Longxiang, raised his head and glanced indifferently at the leading disciple of the Tianlong clan. If you want to live, provide Duan Lingtian's current whereabouts. If you can't provide it or don't know, then this will be your burial ground. Shimin Longxiang's voice fell, and his tone was still indifferent, as if he was talking about an insignificant matter. The faces of the people of the Tianlong clan changed. Shimin Longxiang. The leading disciple of the Tianlong clan had a gloomy and ugly expression. I know you're very strong, and we even gathered so many people to join forces because we know you've entered the battlefield of the Divine King. But, if you think you can kill us all by yourself, I'm afraid you're dreaming. You can either leave now or stay here. As the leading disciple of the Tianlong clan finished speaking, he raised his hand, and the group of Tianlong clan disciples surrounding Shimin Longxiang immediately stepped aside to make a path. If they could avoid fighting, they would rather watch Shimin Longxiang leave. After all, once they fought, even if they could defeat or even kill Shimin Longxiang, many of them would certainly die. This was not what they wanted to see. After all, no one knew who would die. Everyone was worried about themselves. I gave you a chance. Shimin Longxiang had no intention of leaving. But since you don't cherish it, then you can be buried here. As his voice fell, bursts of cyan aura wrapped around Shimin Longxiang's body and swept up. In the blink of an eye, it had formed a tornado emitting a terrifying aura of destruction. Some of the Tianlong clan disciples who were closer were oppressed by the aura and retreated repeatedly. Some of the disciples with lower cultivation were blown away by the oncoming wind. Those who did not resist were fine as they moved with the wind. Those who resisted were basically injured, and blood wildly spurted from their mouths. Attack. Kill him. The leading disciple of the Tianlong clan shouted with a grave expression, High Divine Kings, all of you go forward and surround him. Attack with all your strength, don't hold back. Medium Divine Kings, interfere from behind. Kill him with all your strength. If we drag this out, we'll be defeated one by one. At that time, no one can think of leaving alive. If we fight with our lives on the line, there's still a chance of survival. If we cower, we'll definitely die. As the voice of the Tianlong clan disciple fell, he took the lead and rushed out. His momentum was like a rainbow, like a god of war. Chapter 38:53. The leader of the 30-man team of Tianlong clan took the lead as an example. Although the others were afraid, they knew that they had to do it at this time. They had to bite the bullet and go. Just as their leader said, if they fought with all their might, there might be a chance for many of them to survive. If they did not fight with all their might and became timid, it was very likely that they would be defeated one by one, leading to everyone being killed. No one knew if they would be among those who survived after fighting with all their might. However, they knew that if they were to be timid, all of them would only have a path of death. Kill? Fight with him. So what if it's Shimin Longxiang? Today we will kill Shimin Longxiang and let the Tai sect know that their undefeated genius under the Divine Emperor level will also die in the hands of our Tianlong clan disciples after entering the battlefield of the Divine Kings. The 30-man team of the Tianlong clan, including the few Tianlong clan disciples who were still interfering with the space, attacked one after another at this time to kill Shimin Longxiang. Divine weapons appeared in their hands, and the profound truths of the laws they were good at were integrated into their divine power. They burst out without holding back, and they did not dare to hold back. Whoosh! Whoosh! Waves after waves of powerful energy whistled out, causing the surrounding space to tremble. Looking from afar, it was as if they had covered the sky and covered the sun. Boom! Boom! The terrifying power formed a colorful torrent that exploded in the sky, and then like a tide, gathered in the middle of the encirclement. The torrent surged to the sky, and all of them gathered at one point, as if there was a vortex in the center that was constantly swallowing the surrounding water. I, Shimin Longxiang, have not fought since I stepped into the upper Divine King level. In the face of the thunderous attack of the Tianlong clan people, the white-clothed youth in the center of the storm spoke again, his tone still indifferent. Today I will use the blood of you Tianlong clan disciples as a sacrifice to the sword in my hand. Arrogant! As soon as Shimin Longxiang's voice fell, many Tianlong clan disciples shouted, "Today you Shimin Longxiang will die without a doubt. Kill him. Kill." The people of the Tianlong clan were all furious. No matter how strong Shimin Longxiang's strength was, he was only a divine king. Now, in just a few words, he actually treated them, a group of divine kings, as his subordinates. How could they not be furious? Do you really think that you, Shimin Longxiang, are invincible after becoming a high-level divine king? Among us, there are more than 15 high-level divine kings. While the Heavenly Dragon Sect's disciples were enraged and attacked Shimin Longxiang, the tornadoes around Shimin Longxiang turned into streaks of 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 streaks. Using the sword light as wind, it wrapped around his body. Then Shimin Longxiang moved. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Shimin Longxiang's whole body was encircled by the sword aura. Shimin Longxiang leisurely walked out, his speed neither slow nor slow. He welcomed the joint attack of the disciples of the Tianlong clan. Then the attack landed, but it was shattered by the sword light surrounding Shimin Longxiang's body. In the next moment, whoosh! Shimin Longxiang's figure suddenly accelerated as he charged out. At the same time, the sword light that had formed a tornado around his body raged out. Among the 7 disciples of the Tianlong clan, 3 of them had their flesh cut off, and the remaining 4 had half of their flesh cut off as well. The 3 of them died, their blood and bones falling from the sky, smashing into the ground between the mountains, turning into a pile of debris. The remaining 4 disciples were also on the verge of death. Whoosh! Shimin Longxiang's eyes widened as 2 sword rays shot out from his eyes and merged into one before it flashed past the heads of the 4 dying disciples of the Tianlong clan. A string of 4. In just a blink of an eye, the 4 severely injured disciples of the Tianlong clan who were on the verge of death were killed by Shimin Longxiang's soul attack. In fact, after becoming a god, one's soul would tend to liquefy. It was much more difficult to destroy one's soul compared to a soul battle between celestials in the Devata realms. For this reason, in the realms of gods, unless one's soul energy was much stronger than one's opponent's, one might not be able to kill one's opponent with a soul attack. Otherwise, one's soul attack could only affect one's opponent at most. If the 4 disciples of the Tianlong clan were in their peak condition, it would be good enough if Shimin Longxiang's soul attack could affect one of them for a moment. Not to mention, it could be said that his soul attack had directly destroyed their souls. In fact, as long as Shimin Longxiang didn't launch his soul attack when they were seriously injured, weakened, and hadn't had the time to heal themselves, even if he had delayed for 1 or 2 breaths, waiting for their souls to stabilize, he wouldn't necessarily be able to kill any of them. Unfortunately, no one could have predicted the change in the battle. The remaining disciples of the Tianlong clan were more inclined to believe that Shimin Longxiang was able to achieve this because of his unique vision or luck. This heaven-defying prodigy from the Supreme E sect was someone whom several top god emperor forces in Tunglung province had sent out high-ranking officials to invite. They were willing to leave Tunglung province. Naturally, it was impossible for him to have survived until now by relying on luck. It was impossible for him to be lucky at this moment. Everyone gathered together. Join forces and fight him. Otherwise we will be defeated by him one by one again. As the leader of the Tianlong clan spoke, more than 20 disciples of the Tianlong clan no longer surrounded Shimin Longxiang from all directions. They all flew out, gathered together and faced Shimin Longxiang head-on. At this time Shimin Longxiang was already standing in the distance, high in the air, calmly looking at the disciples of the Tianlong clan in front of him who had either failed to attack or retracted their attacks in time. More than 20 disciples of the Tianlong clan gathered together, looking at Shimin Longxiang with fear. They had not thought much of this heaven-defying prodigy from the Supreme Yi sect, but when they really faced him in a life-and-death battle, they deeply realized how terrifying he was. Shimin Longxiang. At this time the leader of the Tianlong clan disciples spoke with an indifferent expression, his tone incomparably cold. Your strength is indeed very strong, beyond all of our expectations. I also believe that you have the ability to kill us. However, now that we are gathered together, even if you want to kill us, I'm afraid you will have to pay a big price. If you are injured, it will be difficult to resist the other teams of the Tianlong clan, or even Duanling Tian. Do you really want to fight with us here? At this moment, the palms of the Tianlong clan disciple were sweating. It was to the extent that beads of sweat could be seen on his forehead. His strength was the strongest among this group of Tianlong clan disciples, and it was because of this that he could become the leader of this team and command them. Otherwise, who would listen to him? It was also because he was the strongest that his vision was better than the others, and he could see that Shimin Longxiang's strength was far more terrifying than the rumors. This had reached another level. Perhaps, some of the weaker lower divine emperors might not be able to defeat him. Even if they did not lose to him, it would be difficult to defeat him. However, Shimin Longxiang's response was to move again. Oh, 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 oh. When Shimin Longxiang moved again, the sword light that had formed a tornado around him disappeared, and the green wind raged all over his body. His figure swayed and turned into dozens of afterimages. Then these dozens of afterimages attacked the group of Tianlong clan disciples, and it was difficult to distinguish which was real and which was fake. At least, this was what the group of Tianlong clan disciples thought. Only one is real. The others are fake. While the leader of the Tianlong clan disciples shouted to warn the others, Shimin Longxiang's dozens of afterimages had already approached the group of Tianlong clan disciples. However, even with the warning, when these Tianlong clan disciples saw the afterimages approaching and saw the lifelike face and figure of Shimin Longxiang, they could not help but attack. The group of people attacked, and the afterimages scattered and turned into nothingness. For a moment they all breathed a sigh of relief. However, their expressions soon changed. This was because they discovered that the instant their tense nerves relaxed following the thunder-like attacks, waves of sharp auras swept over their heads. At this moment, even if they wanted to accumulate power to resist, it was already too late. A bunch of idiots. The leader of the Tianlong clan disciples was the only one in the group who did not attack. At this moment he shouted loudly, and the power that he had been accumulating for a long time exploded, and his whole body shot out like a cannonball. The moment he escaped, a force completely formed by wind fell from the sky like a towering mountain and pressed down on the group of Tianlong clan disciples. Because these Tianlong clan disciples had just attacked with all their strength, it was difficult for them to accumulate power to resist the force falling from the sky again in a short period of time. Therefore they were all submerged by this force. The leader of the Tianlong clan disciples, who had already fled far away, could not help but turn his head to take a look. With just a glance, his eyes were about to burst. More than 20 Tianlong clan disciples, who were still alive a moment ago, were now pressed down by the hurricane falling from the sky. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere, and a bloody mist drifted in the air. In the end, the originally lively aura of life was completely annihilated. They were all dead. Run. Without any hesitation, the leader of the Tianlong clan disciples felt his heart palpitate, and he hurriedly fled into the distance. Light burst out from his body and he exerted all his strength. Your strength is not bad. However, if you want to escape from under my nose, it's still impossible. As the leader of the Tianlong clan disciples heard an indifferent voice in the next moment, when he reacted and attacked, two cyan sword rays, one pierced his forehead from the back of his head, and the other pierced his heart from behind. His soul was extinguished. His heart was shattered. In the next moment, the leader of the Tianlong clan disciples followed in the footsteps of his companions and died. At the same time, whoosh, a figure wearing clothes whiter than snow appeared. Shimin Longxiang had killed more than 30 people in a row, but the white clothes on his body were still as pure as snow, without a speck of dust or even a trace of blood. Chapter 38:54. Ever since they learned that dozens of people from the Tianlong clan had died, while no one from their side had died, the people of the Tianlong clan who were outside the battlefield of the God Kings felt very relieved. You Greater One sect, you dare to challenge our Tianlong clan to an emperor battle. Now do you regret it? However, at the entrance of the battlefield of the God Kings in Sky Dragon City, more than 30 soul beads were all shattered. The faces of the Tianlong clan elders on duty changed greatly, and at the same time they felt their scalps go numb. Something big has happened. Although the several Tianlong clan elders on duty were very unwilling to believe that everything in front of them was true, and did not want to spread the news, they knew that this kind of thing could not be concealed. Not long after, the people of the Tianlong clan who were originally incomparably excited and ridiculing the Greater One sect were all speechless. A team of 30 people was wiped out? How many people died on the Greater One sect's side? Many people of the Tianlong clan began to pay attention to this question. However, when the news came back from the Greater One sect, they were all dumbfounded. During the time when the 30 people of the Tianlong clan were wiped out, the Greater One sect did not lose a single person. In fact, for several days, no one from the Greater One sect had died. For a time, there was a dead silence in the Tianlong clan. However, at the same time, there were people who could not help whispering. Could it be that they met Shimin Longxiang of the Greater One sect? A team of 30 people, and led by Wang Feng. Wang Feng's strength can also be ranked in the top echelon among the God Kings of our Tianlong clan. That is, if we don't count Duan Lingtian. Shimin Longxiang alone was not enough to wipe them out, right? Perhaps, with the help of other people from the Greater One sect, plus Shimin Longxiang, more than 30 God King disciples of our Tianlong clan were wiped out. That should be the case. This news was undoubtedly a huge blow to the Tianlong clan. For a time, no one talked about the Greater One sect's divine king disciples being wiped out twice. Unlike the Tianlong clan, the Greater One sect, which was originally filled with worry, seemed to have been swept away in an instant with the news that the 30 God King disciples of the Tianlong clan had been wiped out and that no one from the Greater One sect had died. It must be Shimin Longxiang. The people of the Tianlong clan were mocking our Greater One sect before. Now they won't mock us anymore, right? Does that Tianlong clan really think that they're the only ones who can wipe out our God King's disciples? Our Greater One sect also has such people. This time it's really satisfying. In order to celebrate the annihilation of the 30 God Kings of the Tianlong clan, your father will go to the God Emperor battlefield and kill several God Emperors of the Tianlong clan. The intensity of the God Emperor battlefield spread to the ears of the Tianlong clan and Greater One sect's God Emperor experts, and also stimulated the hidden passion in their bodies. For a time, many God Emperor experts of the two sects entered the God Emperor battlefield one after another. Seeing this scene, the elders on duty at the entrance of the God Emperor battlefield could not help shaking their heads and sighing. I'm afraid it won't be long before some God Emperors fall. The God Emperor battlefield has also begun. It won't be long before the Quasi-Emperor battlefield begins. Duan Lingtian knew nothing about what was happening outside. He was still searching for the Greater One sect's disciples on the God King battlefield. I'm almost halfway to my goal. In the sky above a grassland, Duan Lingtian glanced at the identity badges of the Greater One sect's God King disciples in his storage ring and sighed secretly. In fact, he had long felt bored and wanted to leave the God King battlefield. But, thinking of what he said in front of the Greater One sect in Peace City, he immediately dismissed the idea of leaving. In order to not slap his own face, he must collect the identity badges of the 100 God King disciples of the Greater One sect before he can leave. In the next few months, Duan Lingtian's luck was not very good. He encountered 3 more groups of Greater One sect's God King disciples, and one of the groups had more than 30 people. Among the 3 teams, 2 of the weaker teams were forcefully crushed and annihilated by Duan Lingtian. As for the stronger group, in order to not let even one of them escape, Duan Lingtian began to show weakness, and then took the opportunity to kill more than 10 people in one breath, and then slaughtered the rest. The 3 groups gave Duan Lingtian more than 50 identity badges. Only 12 more. Duan Lingtian counted the identity badges of the Greater One sect's God King disciples in his storage ring and found that there were already 88 badges. He only needed 12 more to reach 100. At that time he could also leave. Continue. After another round of searching, Duan Lingtian found a large commotion in front of him half a month later. There are people fighting? And there seems to be a lot of people? In the God King battlefield, if there were people fighting, it would definitely be people of the Tianlong clan and the Greater One sect. Duan Lingtian's figure flashed and he approached. Soon after, Duan Lingtian saw a large group of Heavenly Dragon Sect's disciples besieging more than 30 Supreme Sect's disciples in a lofty mountain range. The two groups had clearly just encountered each other, and no one had died for the time being. However, among the more than 30 Greater One Sect disciples, there were already many people injured, and a few of them were seriously injured. Miss Seven? Soon, Duan Lingtian saw several familiar figures in the group of people in front of him. One of the familiar figures was Miss Seven, who had participated in the Hidden Dragon Grand competition with him. As for the other people, they were also people who had participated in the Hidden Dragon Grand competition with him, but he did not recognize them. Perhaps during the Hidden Dragon Grand competition, someone had mentioned their names, but Duan Lingtian had long forgotten. 1. A burst of golden blade light broke through the air, and the moment the sound of a blade rang in his ears, Duan Lingtian saw a Tianlong clan disciple who was seriously injured was killed by a blade. The person who attacked was a young man in embroidered clothes, and was also the strongest person among the Tianlong clan disciples that Duan Lingtian had seen. Perhaps even Miss Seven might not be his opponent. Azure Dragon Disciple. Duan Lingtian glanced at the identity token at the other person's waist. With just a glance, he saw a dragon engraved on it, and the dragon was inlaid with green jade. And this was the identity token of an Azure Dragon Disciple. Duan Lingtian had seen this identity token before. For example, Si Kongyu had one hanging on his waist. So it's an Azure Dragon Disciple, no wonder his strength is so strong. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. I'm missing 12 Greater One Sect Disciple identity tokens, so I'll kill 12 people. The rest I'll leave them. Duan Lingtian knew very well that even if he did not act, it would not be long before the 30 Greater One Sect disciples in front of him would die at the hands of a group of Tianlong clan disciples. His action could only be regarded as icing on the cake, and was different from before when he helped the Tianlong clan disciples in their hour of need. If he helped them in their hour of need, those people would not have any objections if he took more of the spoils. But icing on the cake was not necessarily the case. Of course, Duan Lingtian did not intend to directly attack and kill the Greater One Sect disciples. Before he acted, he must first inform the other party. At the very least, he must let the other party know of his existence. Otherwise, he really intended to steal the spoils. Duan Lingtian teleported and appeared near Miss Seven. Of course, he could only appear in the vicinity. The space in front of him was disturbed by some of the people of the Tianlong clan who were proficient in the laws of space, so it was impossible to teleport. Duan Lingtian could only teleport to a nearby space that was not disturbed. The appearance of Duan Lingtian naturally attracted the attention of many people. Duan Lingtian? The seventh young lady noticed Duan Lingtian as well. Duan Lingtian nodded and smiled at Miss Seven. Miss Seven, we meet again. Well, I didn't expect to see you here. Miss Seven smiled. And at this moment, the young man in embroidered clothes who had killed another Greater One Sect disciple, was the Azure Dragon Disciple, Hui Yuan, who led the group of 100 Tianlong clan disciples with Miss Seven. In a flash, he came to Miss Seven's side, staring vigilantly at Duan Lingtian. He was vigilant, firstly because Miss Seven was friendly to Duan Lingtian, which was a treatment he did not receive. Secondly, because Duan Lingtian's appearance was likely to compete for the spoils of the Tianlong clan disciples. Duan Lingtian? He's Duan Lingtian? And at this time, the Greater One Sect disciples who had already fallen into a disadvantageous position and were somewhat defeated, when they learned of the identity of the purple-clothed inner sect disciple of the Tianlong clan that had suddenly appeared, their complexions greatly changed. The vast majority of the Tianlong clan disciples at this moment revealed a look of despair. I want 12 Greater One Sect disciple identity badges. At the same time, Duan Lingtian spoke in a clear voice. These words were said to the group of Tianlong clan disciples present. Of course, the identity badges I want will only be obtained by killing them myself. I will not take the identity badges of the people you kill. As for their storage rings and divine tools, I will not take them, I only want their identity badges. As his voice fell, and without waiting for the Tianlong clan to respond, Duan Lingtian had already moved out like a ghost, heading straight for the nearest Greater One Sect disciple. This Greater One Sect disciple, just as he reacted, died under Duan Lingtian's sword. A Greater One Sect disciple identity badge was in his hand. Then Duan Lingtian struck again, and the two Greater One Sect disciples nearby, in the blink of an eye, followed in the footsteps of the previous person and died. In the blink of an eye, 3 Greater One Sect disciple identity badges were in his hand. As for the 3 people's storage rings and divine tools, Duan Lingtian did not take them. What are you still doing? Kill. At this time, Hui Yuan, who had regained his composure, roared with an ugly expression, and at the same time his whole person turned into a golden light, heading straight for a Greater One Sect disciple. Although Hui Yuan was unwilling to agree to Duan Lingtian's words just now, but he also knew that Duan Lingtian's request was not excessive, at least in the group of Tianlong clan disciples present. Except for him, there should be no one who would have an opinion. So, even if he was unhappy, he did not say it out loud. But he still urged the others to kill the Greater One Sect disciples as soon as possible. As long as they killed the remaining Greater One Sect disciples as soon as possible, Duan Lingtian may not have the opportunity to get the 12 identity badges. After all, Duan Lingtian had just said that he would only take the identity badges of the Greater One Sect disciples he killed. Chapter 38:55. On the other side, Hui Yuan's momentum was like a rainbow as he charged towards a group of Greater One Sect disciples. As for the other Tianlong clan disciples, most of them were intercepting the Greater One Sect disciples, not allowing them to escape. However, they did not fight with their lives on the line. Even if the other side fought with their lives on the line, they would still retreat and open up some distance. What a joke. Now, with the addition of Duan Lingtian, even if they did not lose a single person, they could still take down these Greater One Sect disciples. Under such circumstances, why should they fight with their lives on the line? You, Hui Yuan, are strong and have the confidence to not die, but we don't. For this reason, after Duan Lingtian killed the 12 Tai Sect's disciples and snatched their identity badges, he continued to kill the other Tai Sect's disciples. In the end, the few remaining Greater One Sect disciples were killed by the numerous Tianlong clan disciples that swarmed over. In this battle, our Sky Dragon Sect disciples killed 36 Greater One Sect disciples without a single casualty. It's a great victory. After the battle was completely settled, a Tianlong clan disciple shouted excitedly. The remaining Tianlong clan disciples were also infected by him. They either laughed heartily or began to shout, "Great victory! Great victory!" At the same time, after obtaining the 12 identity badges that he wanted, Duan Lingtian appeared in front of the 7th young lady in a flash. He nodded and smiled at her. "7th young lady, I've obtained what I wanted. I'll take my leave first." Although he did not know the relationship between 7th young lady and Xue Haichuan had told him to take care of 7th young lady if he had the chance. Since Xue Haichuan had personally asked, he naturally would not be unfriendly to 7th young lady. And 7th young lady responded, then asked, "You are preparing to leave the battlefield of the Divine Kings?" Before Duan Lingtian could open his mouth, the Azure Dragon disciple Hui Yuan had unknowingly arrived not far from the 7th young lady. He stared at Duan Lingtian with an unsightly expression and sneered, "Duan Lingdun, didn't you boast in front of the people of the Greater One Sect that you won't leave the Divine King battlefield if you don't kill 100 Greater One Sect disciples? If you go out without fulfilling your promise, it's fine if you lose face, but I'm afraid you'll drag the sect down and embarrass us." As he spoke, Hui Yuan's lips curled into a mocking smile. "Yes, prepare to leave." Duan Lingtian nodded at the 7th young lady before he glanced at Hui Yuan indifferently. However, he ignored Hui Yuan as he teleported and disappeared from his original spot in a flash. At the same time, he completely disappeared from the sight of the 100-man team of the Tianlong clan. 7th junior sister. At this time, Hui Yuan said to Miss 7 with an ugly expression, "You should stay away from this kind of untrustworthy person. Today he can break his promise to others, tomorrow he can break his promise to you." Miss 7 was the woman Hui Yuan had taken a fancy to. But she favored a young man who was more outstanding than him. This was unacceptable to him. Now, there was an opportunity to discredit the other party. He naturally would not miss it. Untrustworthy? The 7th young lady, who had not paid attention to Hui Yuan for a long time, swept a rare glance over Hui Yuan. "Don't you find it strange? Why did he say he only lacks 12 Greater One Sect disciple identity badges? What is the use of the identity badges as spoils of war?" Miss 7 asked in reply. Without saying anything more, she moved to the side, no longer paying attention to Hui Yuan. When Hui Yuan heard her words, he thought for a while, and his pupils suddenly shrank. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. At this time, the other disciples of the Tianlong clan who heard Miss Seven's words also had a grave expression on their faces, and more people's eyes were filled with disbelief. Duan Lingtian, could it be that before we saw him, he had already obtained 88 Greater One Sect Divine King disciple badges? Doesn't that mean he has already killed 88 disciples of the Greater One Sect's Divine King? Now he has gathered 100 people? So he's going to go out? This can't be true, right? 100 Greater One Sect Divine King disciples. Just thinking about it makes my scalp go numb. At the same time, at the entrance of the Greater One Sect battlefield, the Greater One Sect elder on duty saw more than 30 soul orbs shatter, and his expression changed again and again. Another team of 30 people has fallen. In the past year, almost 150 Greater One Sect Divine King disciples have fallen, right? Yes. I received news a few days ago that although many people from the Tianlong clan have also fallen, but not more than 100 people. Our Greater One Sect Divine King disciples have so many more people than the Tianlong clan? I just received news that more than 20 people from the Tianlong clan have died. The number of people who have died has also exceeded 100. On the Greater One Sect's side, following the fall of another team of 30 people on the Greater One Sect battlefield, there was an uproar from top to bottom. Almost at the same time, the Tianlong clan had not completely recovered from the shock of the loss of a team of 20 people when they heard the news of 30 people from the Greater One Sect dying. Let's see how many people from our Tianlong clan have died this time. Many people subconsciously thought that since more than 30 people from the Greater One Sect had died, perhaps some people from the Tianlong clan had also died. However, they soon discovered that before and after the 30 people from the Greater One Sect had died, no one from the Tianlong clan had died. In other words, the people from the Tianlong clan had killed more than 30 disciples of the Greater One Sect and not a single one had died. This was naturally a joyous occasion. For a moment, the people of the Tianlong clan who were originally in low spirits began to recover their spirits. After all, based on the current situation, the losses of the Tianlong clan were far less than the losses of the Greater One Sect. Of course, these people basically did not have any relatives or disciples who had died in the Greater One Sect battlefield. For those who had relatives or disciples who had died in the Greater One Sect, it was difficult for them to be in a good mood no matter how many people from the Greater One Sect had died. Someone else has come out. Now, it had been nearly a year since the opening of the Emperor Battle Plain. Many Divine King disciples of the Tianlong clan had completed the minimum mission and walked out of the Greater One Sect battlefield. When these Divine King disciples learned of the cruel situation in the Greater One Sect battlefield, they were aware that they were still alive and did not dare to rashly enter the Greater One Sect battlefield again. However, although there were Divine King disciples who had walked out of the Greater One Sect battlefield in the past, those who walked out were basically in groups of at least 20 people. But today there was only one person who had walked out of the Greater One Sect battlefield. I'm finally out. This time I'll strive to break through to the Divine Emperor realm and then enter the Greater One Sect battlefield to take a look. The Greater One Sect's Divine King disciples can give me too few battle merits. If I want to exchange for what I want in Peace City, I'll have to kill the Greater One Sect's Divine Emperors in the Greater One Sect battlefield. Duan Lingtian thought to himself as he walked out of the Greater One Sect battlefield. At the same time, Duan Lingtian, who had just walked out, felt some gazes fall on him. At this time, Duan Lingtian discovered that the entrance of the Tianlong clan battlefield was not as lively as when he had first entered. There were only a few people left. Apart from a few sect elders on duty, there were only a few Divine King disciples standing to the side. Is Duan Lingtian? One of the Divine King disciples recognized Duan Lingtian. Is Duan Lingtian? I heard that he went in alone? To think that he came out alive. Duan Lingtian's strength is not ordinary. As long as he doesn't encounter 100 people from the Greater One Sect, he should be able to come out alive. And with the size of the Greater One Sect battlefield, it won't be easy to encounter 100 people from the Greater One Sect. That's true. I wonder what Duan Lingtian's harvest was this time. He should have killed a few Greater One Sect disciples. I just don't know how many he killed. Before Duan Lingtian entered the battlefield of God Kings, didn't he say he wouldn't come out unless he killed 100 Tai E Sect's disciples? If Duan Lingtian didn't say those words and the Greater One Sect wasn't on guard, perhaps he really could have done it. But after he said those words, the Greater One Sect's Divine King disciples formed groups one after another. It's almost impossible for him to accomplish that goal. Several Divine King disciples of the Tianlong clan whispered to each other. Although the several Tianlong clan elders on duty didn't say anything, they had the same thought in their hearts. After Duan Lingtian came out, he glanced at the people in front of him, and when he didn't find any familiar faces, he left and headed directly in the direction of Peace City. In the Emperor battle plane, if one wanted to use the identity badge of a sect's disciple to exchange for battle merits, one had to go to Peace City to do so. And the people in charge of handling this matter were people from several top God Emperor forces in Tunglung province. Duan Lingtian came out. Duan Lingtian just came out of the Divine King battlefield and went to Peace City immediately. Duan Lingtian should have gone to Peace City to exchange for battle merits with the other people who came out of the Divine King battlefield. After all, only by exchanging battle merits can one be considered to have completed the sect's minimum mission. Say, do you think Duan Lingtian only completed the minimum mission this time, or did he kill many disciples of the Greater One sect? No one dares to recklessly say that. Then is it possible that he killed 100 Divine King disciples of the Greater One sect? That's impossible. Absolutely impossible. As news of Duan Lingtian leaving the Divine King battlefield and going to Peace City immediately spread, more and more people went to Peace City to join in the fun. At the same time, Duan Lingtian, who had just arrived in Peace City, received a message. It was a message from Dongfang Yannian. Little Tian, you came out? Brother Yannian, you're pretty well informed, aren't you? Duan Lingtian smiled. Dongfang Yannian had specially entered Greater One City in the Emperor battle plane to find Duan Lingtian after learning that Duan Lingtian had come out. How was it? Did you get anything? Right now, they're all saying that it's impossible for you to complete the threat you made in front of the Greater One sect. Chapter 3856. Then what do you think, Brother Yannian? Duan Lingtian asked with a smile when he heard Dongfang Yannian's message. Of course I have confidence in you, Dongfang Yannian laughed. Although we've only known each other for a few years, with my understanding of you, you probably won't take back what you've said so easily. Moreover, it hasn't even been a year since you entered the battlefield of God Kings, yet you've already come out. You must have fulfilled what you said, right? When Dongfang Yannian reached the end of his sentence, there was clearly a hint of probing in his tone. Brother Yannian, won't you find out once you make a trip to Peace City? Duan Lingtian did not point it out. He replied with a smile, then said nothing else. He headed towards the place where one could hand in their spoils of war and their badges and receive their battle merit. In the center of Peace City was a large hall called the War Achievement Hall. It was specifically for the disciples of the Tianlong clan and the disciples of the Greater One sect to exchange battle merit. This brat is still keeping me in suspense? In Sky Dragon City, Dongfang Yannian could not help but shake his head with a smile when he heard Duan Lingtian's message. Whatever. I'll make a trip to Peace City and join in the fun. As he mumbled to himself, Dongfang Yannian's figure blurred. He turned into a streak of light and headed straight for Peace City. At the same time, the number of people from the Tianlong clan heading to Peace City had clearly increased. In fact, the number of people from the Greater One sect heading to Peace City had increased as well. Everyone was going to watch the fun. And the fun they wanted to watch was the fun when Duan Lingtian exchanged battle merit. Peace City. War Achievement Hall. Before Duan Lingtian had even entered the War Achievement Hall, quite a few people had already recognized him. They followed behind him and pointed at him. Amongst these people were people from the Tianlong clan, as well as people from the Greater One sect. Right now, the people pointing at him were basically all from the Greater One sect. I advise you people of the Tianlong clan not to follow him into the War Service Hall. Otherwise, as disciples of the Tianlong clan, you'll lose face along with Duan Lingtian. A Greater One sect disciple swept a glance over the group of Tianlong clan disciples and mocked. That's right. If I were you, I definitely wouldn't go in. Another Greater One sect disciple revealed a mocking smile. Your Tianlong clan's Duan Lingtian, before entering the God King battlefield, declared in front of our Greater One sect's elder Huang Yun and many fellow disciples that he would only come out after killing 100 people of our Greater One sect. This time he came out less than a year after entering the battlefield of God Kings. Could it be that you think he's fulfilled his promise? You know, our Greater One sect's people who have been killed in the God King battlefield so far are less than 150 people. Less than 150 people. If 100 people were really killed by Duan Lingtian, then the other God Kings of your Tianlong clan are really trash. Of course, I don't think the other God Kings of your Tianlong clan are so trash. Unlike the clamoring of the Greater One sect group, the Tianlong clan group only frowned. A few of the more irritable ones began to curse at the Greater One sect disciples. At the same time, Duan Lingtian also entered the war service hall. And just as Duan Lingtian stepped into the war service hall, a respectful greeting suddenly came from outside the door. Elder Huang Yun. Elder Huang Yun. Elder Huang Yun, you've come. A middle-aged man with an ordinary face, sharp eyes, and a medium build slowly walked in from outside the war service hall amidst the exclamations. Moreover, as soon as he entered, he quickly stepped forward and blocked Duan Lingtian's path. Duan Lingtian paused and looked at the middle-aged man who was the Greater One sect Elder Huang Yun, and asked indifferently, "You want to find trouble with Ping City? I'm going to exchange for battle merits. You're blocking my path. Are you trying to incite conflict?" When Duan Lingtian reached the end of his sentence, there was a hint of sharpness in his eyes. Sensing several cold gazes falling on him from within the war service hall, Huang Yun, who felt great pressure, hurriedly stepped aside to make way for Duan Lingtian. At the same time he could not help but snort coldly. Then, as Duan Lingtian stepped forward, he followed all the way, a mocking smile on his face. "Duan Lingtian, do you still remember what you said to me in the Divine Pill Hall of Peace City more than 10 months ago? You said that you would enter the battlefield of the Divine Kings and would not come out until you killed 100 of our Greater One sect disciples. Now that you've come out of the battlefield of the Divine Kings, I wonder if you've accomplished what you said? If you haven't, then what you said to Duan Lingtian is tantamount to fart. The promise that you, the number one person of the younger generation of the Tianlong clan, made is also in name only. Moreover, you're a disgrace to the Tianlong clan. Is this how the Tianlong clan teaches their disciples?" Huang Yun sneered all the way as if he was certain that Duan Lingtian could not accomplish what he had said in the past. In the war service hall, although there were many disciples of the Tianlong clan, no one said a word. They looked at Duan Lingtian's back with eyes full of doubt. In the depths of their hearts, they also did not believe that Duan Lingtian could kill 100 Greater One sect disciples in less than a year's time on the battlefield of the Divine Kings. It must be known that because of Duan Lingtian's arrogant words, the Greater One sect's Divine King disciples had all formed teams to enter the battlefield of the Divine Kings in order to prevent Duan Lingtian from defeating them one by one. Later, the Greater One sect even formed a team of 100 people to kill Duan Lingtian. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Duan Lingtian suddenly stopped. Then he slightly tilted his head and glanced at Huang Yun. Suddenly he cracked open his mouth, revealing 2 rows of snow-white teeth. He smiled and said, "Say, if the elders and friends of those 100 Greater One sect disciples knew that their deaths were all because of you, Huang Yun, how would they feel?" As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, he walked toward one of the counters in the War Merit Hall. At this time Huang Yun did not follow Duan Lingtian. The mocking smile on his face was no longer there, replaced by disbelief. Then he shook his head and said, "No. Impossible. Absolutely impossible." At the same time, Elder Dongfang Yannian. Elder Dongfang. As a series of greetings rang out from the entrance of the war service hall, the White Dragon Elder of the Tianlong clan, Dongfang Yannian, walked in. He glanced at Huang Yun indifferently and said, "I'm really curious. You, an inner-sect elder of the Greater One sect, indirectly caused the deaths of 100 Greater One sect disciples. How will the Greater One sect deal with you?" With that, Dongfang Yannian walked towards Duan Lingtian. At this moment, Duan Lingtian took out 100 Greater One sect disciple badges from his spatial ring in front of many people who had followed him. 100 exactly. The old man behind the counter counted the badges for the disciples of the Greater One sect, then said in a clear voice, 21 Greater One sect disciple badges for Greater One God King, 34 Greater One God King badges for Greater One God King, 45 Lesser One God King badges for Greater One God sect disciples. 740 battle merits. As soon as the old man said that, the war service hall fell into a dead silence. Little Tian amazing. At this moment, Dongfang Yannian had already arrived beside Duan Lingtian. He grinned and gave him a thumbs up. At this moment, after a moment of deathly silence, an uproar broke out in the war service hall. Heavens, Duan Lingtian really did it? He entered the battlefield of God Kings alone and killed 100 Greater One sect disciples in less than a year. From what I know, when Duan Lingtian came out, there were less than 150 Greater One sect disciples who had died, right? Among them, 100 were killed by Duan Lingtian? Duan Lingtian is that strong? The Greater One sect had specially formed groups to prevent Duan Lingtian from killing them one by one. But now it seems that forming groups is meaningless against Duan Lingtian. Terrifying. Too terrifying. In the war service hall, the group of Tianlong clan disciples were all shocked. And the Greater One sect disciples who were originally arrogant did not say a word at this moment. Their faces were ugly and many of them looked as if they had just eaten a fly. Of course, the one with the ugliest and palest complexion was the inner sect elder of the Greater One sect, Huang Yun. Huang Yun's face was deathly pale. He could almost foresee what would happen to him if the elders of the 100 Greater One sect disciples killed by Duan Lingtian knew that they were indirectly killed by him. Most likely he would be killed as soon as he left the Greater One sect. He naturally understood that it was difficult to offend the public. Moreover, he was only an inner sect elder in the Greater One sect. There were many people he could not afford to offend. Ah, weren't you people of the Greater One sect very arrogant just now? Can't say anything now? Weren't you mocking Duan Lingtian just now? Are you dumbfounded now? Elder Huang Yun of your Greater One sect is really powerful. With just a few words he killed 100 God King disciples of your Greater One sect. This news you have to quickly spread back. I'm really curious, what kind of expression will the other people of your Greater One sect have when they hear this news? The Tianlong clan disciples who were mocked by the people of the Greater One sect and did not have the courage to say anything were now full of confidence, and had a déjà vu of serfs turning into landlords. And now, it was the group of people of the Greater One sect who lowered their heads and did not say a word. And very soon many people of the Greater One sect left dejectedly. Huang Yun also attempted to leave with the crowd. And the moment Huang Yun stepped out of the war service hall, Duan Lingtian timely opened his mouth. Elder Huang Yun, I wish you good luck. These words almost made Huang Yun spit out blood. Then Huang Yun's eyes were bloodshot and he said through gritted teeth, I, Huang Yun, an inner sect elder of the Greater One sect, will immediately enter the battlefield of the God Emperor, and fight to the death with the God Emperor of the Tianlong clan. I will fight to the last drop of blood for the sect. Huang Yun knew that he had no other choice. If he were to leave the Emperor battle plain, then not only would he die, but his seniors, friends and disciples would be implicated as well. Only by dying on the battlefield of the God Emperor battle plain, sacrificing himself for the sect, could he protect his elders, friends and disciples. Chapter 3857. Duan Lingtian, an inner sect disciple of the Tianlong clan, had entered the battlefield of the Divine Kings for the first time and killed more than 100 Divine Kings from the opposing Greater One sect. When the 100 badges of the Greater One sect's Divine Kings were delivered to the War Service Hall of Peace City, the War Service Hall was not the only one who was shocked. When the news spread, the Tianlong clan and Greater One sect were shocked as well. Unlike the joy of the Tianlong clan, Greater One sect was filled with worry. This was especially true for the higher-ups of Greater One sect whose juniors confirmed that Duan Lingtian had killed. They were furious and wanted to find the inner sect elder, Huang Yun, who had infuriated Duan Lingtian and made Duan Lingtian boast that he would kill 100 Divine Kings from the Greater One sect's Divine Kings. However, because Huang Yun had entered the battlefield of the Divine Emperors as soon as he left Peace City and returned to Greater One City, they had nowhere to vent their anger. After Duan Lingtian had submitted the 100 badges of the Greater One sect's Divine Kings, they were sent to Greater One City by the War Service Hall of Peace City and handed over to the Supreme Elder of Greater One sect who was in charge of Greater One City. When the benevolent-looking old man saw one of the badges, he let out a low growl from the depths of his throat. That was one of his most beloved grandsons. But now he had died in the battlefield of the Divine Kings. Moreover, he had been killed by Duan Lingtian, an inner sect disciple of the Tianlong clan who had killed more than 100 Divine Kings. Senior brother. After the people from the War Service Hall of Peace City left, the old man left Greater One City and sent a message. Senior brother, let Long Xiang come out. It's meaningless for him to kill other disciples of the Tianlong clan in the battlefield of the Divine Kings. Why don't we let him come out and agree to a battle to the death with Duan Lingtian? Of course, if we are not confident or if the Tianlong clan refuses, we will make an agreement with the Tianlong clan that Duan Lingtian and Long Xiang will not be allowed to enter the Divine King battlefield in the future. They will be forbidden from entering the battlefield. Although he hated Duan Lingtian, he knew that he couldn't attack the Duan Lingtian in the Emperor battle plain. As for outside, it would be even more difficult to make a move against the Duan Lingtian unless they were confident that they could kill the Duan Lingtian without being discovered. The Greater One sect was the sect that had nurtured him and protected him for many years. Even though his grandson was important, the legacy of the sect was equally important. The disciples of the God Kings were the foundation of the sect in the future. If the sect continued to be slaughtered by Duanling Tian, unless the sect was able to produce a God Emperor expert who could lead the sect to a higher level and recruit more outstanding disciples, otherwise the sect would go downhill. This was no longer a trial but a massacre. This time, although his heart was filled with hatred, he didn't lose his reason and knew what was more important. Let's have a meeting to decide this matter. On the other side there was a response in a moment. Soon, the great elders of the Greater One Sect, as well as other Greater One Sect elders whose status was equivalent to the Black Dragon Elder of the Tianlong clan, gathered together. They were all high-level God Emperors. Of course, the Greater One Sect Master was also present. When the Supreme Elder from Taiyi City spoke up, the others agreed as well. It's true that Duanling Tian and Shimen Long Xiang entered the God King's battlefield and slaughtered them one-sidedly. This way, not only will the God King's disciples from Taiyi sect not be able to gain experience, but even the God King's disciples from the Heavenly Dragon sect won't be able to gain experience. I agree with the Tianlong clan to prohibit Duanling Tian and Shimen Long Xiang from entering the Divine King battlefield again. Seconded. Many of the Greater One Sect elders present had juniors who had died at the hands of Duanling Tian. In addition, some of their juniors were still alive on the Divine King battlefield. Therefore, whether it was for public or private reasons, they didn't want Duanling Tian to enter the Divine King battlefield again and slaughter the disciples of their Greater One Sect. That Duanling Tian, how can he be so strong? It doesn't make sense. There were also people who voiced such doubts. He must be hiding his strength. That's obvious. What a sinister boy. I thought the strength he showed before was shocking enough, but I didn't expect him to be hiding his strength. Let Shimen Longxiang come out first. If his twin sister Shimen Yun is in danger, she will send a telepathic message and he will come out. The meeting of the Greater One Sect's high-level God Emperors only lasted for less than an hour before it ended. After the meeting, there were only 3 people left in the huge meeting hall. The Greater One Sect Master. Greater One Sect's Great Elder Luo Qizhan. There was also an old man with white hair and a youthful complexion who had the demeanor of a transcendent being. Luo Qizhan was also the person who didn't support the Emperor battle in the past because he felt that his senior brother's disciple, Shimen Longxiang, would definitely become a God Emperor in the future. However, he later learned from his senior brother that Shimen Longxiang would soon leave the Greater One Sect, and that Duanling Tian had appeared in the Tianlong clan, so his thoughts changed. I'll have to trouble you to let Shimen Longxiang come out. The Greater One Sect Master looked at the last old man with white hair and a youthful complexion and said respectfully, "Okay." Hearing this, the old man nodded faintly and then disappeared completely in front of the Greater One Sect Master and Great Elder Luo Qizhan. I really don't know why senior brother wants Longxiang to leave the Greater One Sect. Even if the Greater One Sect can't give Longxiang a better future, there's no hurry, right? Luo Qizhan said with a sigh. Great uncle, if I were him, I would make the same choice. The Greater One Sect Master shook his head and said, Shimen Longxiang shouldn't be bound by the Greater One Sect. You may think that with his talent, it's not difficult for him to become a God Emperor in the future. But then what? If he spends too much time in the Greater One Sect, even if he becomes a God Emperor in the future, it'll be difficult for him to deal with the current 1,000-year tribulation, right? I think Great Uncle's expectations for Shimen Longxiang may not be as simple as an ordinary God Emperor. He may even be expecting him to become a God Emperor. When the Greater One Sect Master said this, Luo Qizhan couldn't help but gasp. God Emperor? Was that possible? The Greater One Sect's encampment. Outside a secluded and elegant valley surrounded by clouds all year round, the Greater One Sect's disciples were usually not allowed to come close, and there was a Greater One Sect's patrol team monitoring the surroundings. Whoosh! The old man with white hair and a youthful complexion silently passed through the cloud-covered valley. In fact, the clouds surrounding the valley were all condensed by the formation, but at this time the old man's figure passed through the formation as if he was entering a place without any hindrance. In the secluded and elegant valley, there was only a small wooden house, and the rest were in their original state, the kind that had not been damaged in any way. The old man stood in the air, overlooking the courtyard of the small wooden house. In the courtyard, there was a 16 or 17-year-old girl wearing a yellow dress. She sat in front of a stone table in a dignified manner. She held a cup full of steaming hot water in her hands. Her face was slightly pale, but when she saw the 2 little animals rolling around and frolicking in the courtyard, a pale smile bloomed on her face. Although she was sitting there, she still looked very delicate, as if she would fall in the wind. Whoosh! The old man stepped on the air and landed, looking at the young girl with eyes full of gentleness. When the old man landed, the young girl came back to her senses and looked at the old man with a pair of beautiful eyes, revealing a look of joy. Master. As her voice fell, she was about to stand up, but it seemed a little difficult. Whoosh! As the old man casually stretched out his hand, a gentle force pressed the young girl back to the stone chair. Didn't I tell you? Your body is weak, so you don't have to bow when you see me. As soon as the old man finished speaking, he sat opposite the young girl and asked with a smile, "Is it too boring here?" No. The young girl lightly shook her head. Master, was born with terminated meridians and I can't cultivate. It's already lucky that I'm still alive now and I should be thankful. How can I be bored? The old man sighed. Perhaps there's a venerable grade divine pill that can help you open up your terminated meridians and open up the path of cultivation. However, I'm afraid I won't have the chance to obtain such a divine pill for you. There's still hope for your brother, the old man said. The young girl shook her head again. Master, actually, I don't expect to open up my terminated meridians and open up the path of cultivation. If I had a choice, I'd rather brother slack off and not work so hard. I know. I'm the reason why he's like this today. When she reached the end of her sentence, a hint of sorrow could be seen in her eyes. If I wasn't worried that my death would affect brother's cultivation and even his future, I would have died a long time ago. The old man's expression turned solemn. Don't mention this again. When the young girl's expression turned timid, the old man's expression softened again. I'm here to ask you to bring your brother out. You can sleep now. Before the young girl could react, the old man had already knocked her out and placed her on the bed in the wooden house. Then the old man raised his hand, and a sharp light pierced through the air and landed on the young girl's heart. In an instant, the young girl's delicate body trembled slightly. In the next moment, the old man withdrew his hand and left the wooden house in a flash. He arrived outside the valley and looked in the direction of the entrance to the Emperor Battle Realm in the Supreme E-Sect's estate. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back as though he was waiting for something. At the same time, in the battlefield of the God Kings in the Emperor Battle Realm, a handsome young man with a cold expression suddenly came to a halt. In the next instant, he clutched his chest with one hand and his expression changed drastically. As soon as he finished speaking, he had already sped off in the direction behind him like a ghost. That's Senior Brother Shimin Longxiang? He's also in the battlefield of the God Kings? No. He's still in our Supreme E-Sect? It's really Senior Brother Shimin Longxiang. His expression doesn't seem too good. Near the entrance of the battlefield of the God Kings that led to Sky First City, many people saw the young man in a hurry and could not help but stop to watch. At the same time, they were filled with doubts. What had happened to make their Supreme E-Sect's prided son of heaven lose his composure like this? End of chapter. Chapter 3858. To Duan Ling Tian, more than 700 battle merits was not considered much. He casually used them to exchange for some pill refining materials that he urgently needed before he left Peace City. The things I want will cost me nearly 20,000 battle merits. The God King battlefield won't give me that many battle merits. The most important thing right now is to break through to the God King realm. When I break through to the God King realm, I'll enter the God King battlefield and kill the God Kings of the Greater One Sect to accumulate battle merits. In the Emperor Battle Plane, as a disciple of the Tianlong clan, killing a Greater One Sect disciple of the Greater One Sect at the High God King realm would only give him 25 battle merits. But if he could kill a Greater One Sect disciple at the Low God King realm, he would be rewarded with 200 battle merits. And if he killed a Middle God King, he would be rewarded with 2,000 battle merits. Let's go out first. After returning to Sky Dragon City, Duan Ling Tian was escorted by a group of Tianlong clan disciples. He left through the entrance of the Emperor Battle Plane and returned to the Tianlong clan. Before that, the Tianlong clan people escorted Duan Ling Tian and were not stingy with their words of praise. Now, the news of Duan Ling Tian killing more than 100 Greater One Sect God King realm disciples had spread throughout Sky Dragon City and the Tianlong clan. Every disciple of the Tianlong clan felt that Duan Ling Tian had brought honor to the Tianlong clan. In the Emperor Battle Plane, the God King battlefield was fierce, and Duan Ling Tian's battle merits could be said to have completely boosted the morale of the Tianlong clan. The Greater One sect has offered a reward of 300,000 contribution points for killing Duan Ling Tian. Now that Duan Ling Tian has returned after killing more than 100 Greater One sect God King Realm disciples, the Tianlong clan will also reward him with 300,000 contribution points. Not long after Duan Ling Tian returned to the Tianlong temple, he heard the words of the Tianlong clan's clan master, Long Qingchong, which spread throughout the Tianlong temple. Duan Ling Tian suspected that Long Qingchong knew he had returned to the Tianlong temple and made such a public announcement to let him hear it. After all, if he was still in the Emperor battle plane, he wouldn't have heard it. Duan Ling Tian, congratulations. Presently, Duan Ling Tian had just returned to the Inner Sect Disciples Cultivation area, and within the spacious Inner Sect Disciples Cultivation area, a few figures flew out from the Internal Affairs Pavilion to congratulate Duan Ling Tian. More than 90% of the Inner Sect disciples were in the God King battlefield, and those who weren't were in Sky Dragon City or Peace City in the Emperor battle plane. Elders, how do I claim the 300,000 contribution points? Duan Ling Tian asked as he smiled at the few elders who flew out of the Internal Affairs Palace. Do you want it now? One of the elderly elders asked with a smile. When he saw Duan Ling Tian nod, the elderly elder immediately sent a message and quickly responded. Duan Ling Tian, the clan master has sent Vice Sect Master Shui over personally to transfer 300,000 contribution points to you. Vice Sect Master Shui? Duan Ling Tian's eyes narrowed when he heard Elder Nian Mai's words. Then his gaze deepened. If he remembered correctly, only one of the Tianlong clan's Vice Sect Masters had the surname Shui. In other words, this Vice Sect Master Shui was the father-in-law of Kuang Tianjing's second disciple, the Tianlong clan's Vice Sect Master, Shui Mingji. I've never seen this Vice Sect Master Shui before. When he first arrived at the Tianlong clan, Shui Haichuan had warned him that if Kuang Tianjing saw him as an enemy, it meant that he was on the opposite side of Vice Sect Master Shui. He had to be wary of Vice Sect Master Shui. After staring for a while, Duan Ling Tian heard the sound of wind whistling from afar. When he came back to his senses, a figure had already appeared in front of him. It was a middle-aged man with a determined face and a dignified expression. Greetings, Vice Sect Master Shui. Vice Sect Master Shui. At the same time, the elders of the Internal Affairs Palace bowed to the newcomer. Shui Mingji nodded to them, then his gaze fell on Duan Ling Tian, sizing him up. Unlike Duan Ling Tian, he was the first person to arrive. It was Duan Ling Tian's first time meeting him, but it was not his first time meeting Duan Ling Tian. Early on during the Hidden Dragon Grand Competition, he'd once secretly appeared in the sky above the Hidden Dragon Grand Competition and threatened Duan Ling Tian via voice transmission. But Duan Ling Tian didn't know that the person threatening him was him. Duan Ling Tian? Shui Mingji asked with a smile when he saw Duan Ling Tian again. Vice Sect Master Shui. Duan Ling Tian nodded slightly at Shui Mingji as a greeting. The elders of the Internal Affairs Palace were a little surprised by Duan Ling Tian's arrogance in front of Shui Mingji. This was because even in front of them, Duan Ling Tian had never been so arrogant. After all, their status in the Tianlong clan was far below Vice Sect Master Shui. Thank you, Vice Sect Master Shui. Under the astonished gazes of the elders of the Internal Affairs Palace, Duan Ling Tian directly took out his identity token and handed it to Shui Mingji. It was obvious that he wanted Shui Mingji to transfer the 300,000 contribution points that Sect Master Long Qingchong had promised him. The elders of the Internal Affairs Palace thought that Shui Mingji would frown or something, but they soon became even more astonished. Shui Mingji did not seem surprised by Duan Ling Tian's behavior at all. He casually took Duan Ling Tian's identity token and transferred 300,000 contribution points to him without hesitation. Of course, these 300,000 contribution points did not belong to Shui Mingji. They were transferred to him by Sect Master Long Qingchong. Strictly speaking, he was now just an errand boy. I have completed the task that Sect Master gave me. See you later. After Shui Mingji returned Duan Ling Tian's identity token to Duan Ling Tian, he no longer maintained the smile on his face. This was because he could see that there was no room for negotiation between him and Duan Ling Tian. Of course, he did not think that there would be room for negotiation. This was because, in his opinion, the former head of the Linghu family, Linghu Renjie, had most likely told Duan Ling Tian that he had sent people to kill Linghu Renjie. As he turned around to leave, Shui Mingji's eyes were filled with killing intent. I can't delay any longer. His current strength, even compared to the Greater One Sect's Shimin Longxiang, is not the slightest bit weaker. Perhaps he has strength comparable to an ordinary lower divine emperor. Otherwise, How could he be like a fish in water on the battlefield of divine kings and kill hundreds of greater one-sect disciples in less than a year? If he is given time to grow, not only Kuang Tianjing but also my daughter, son-in-law, and even I will be in trouble. Shui Mingji was not in a hurry to return to his own place of cultivation. Instead, he went directly to the cultivation place of inner sect elder Kuang Tianjing. After Shui Mingji left, several elders of the Internal Affairs Palace looked at Duan Tian. One of them asked in confusion, Duan Lingdian, is there a conflict between you and Deputy Lord Shui? Duan Tian smiled faintly and did not deny it. Deputy Lord Shui's son-in-law Zhong Can's master, inner sect disciple Kuang Tianjing, attacked me before I entered the Tianlong clan and behind the Linghu family. If it weren't for the protection of the Linghu family's protective array, I would have died at that time. The moment Duan Tian's words left his mouth, he shook his head and descended into the Internal Affairs Hall. The elders of the Internal Affairs Palace looked at each other. It was no wonder Duan Tian was so indifferent to Deputy Lord Shui. It turned out that there was another layer of reason. Duan Tian will grow sooner or later. If Kuang Tianjing doesn't take the initiative to make amends, he will suffer a great loss sooner or later. An elder of the Internal Affairs Palace sighed. Looking at Duan Tian's attitude when he mentioned Kuang Tianjing and his attitude toward Deputy Lord Shui, I'm afraid the hatred between him and Kuang Tianjing won't be let go so easily. I'm afraid that in a few years, Duan Tian will have the ability to defeat or even kill Kuang Tianjing. Does he need to wait until he grows? From what I know, the top Emperor God forces in Tunglung province are all fighting to get him to join them. As long as he joins one of them, he can make any request. When that time comes, one word from him and Kuang Tianjing will be dead. After walking around the Internal Affairs Palace for a while, Duan Tian, who was rich, spent some contribution points to buy some new materials he needed in the Internal Affairs Palace before he left. He returned to his residence and went into closed-door cultivation. For the time being, he did not need to refine divine pills to aid his cultivation since he still had a surplus of divine pills from before. While Duan Tian was in closed-door cultivation, Shui Mingji, the deputy lord of the Tianlong clan, and Kuang Tianjing, the inner sect elder, had gathered together. We can't wait any longer. We must kill Duan Tian as soon as possible. Shui Mingji said in a deep voice, how long has it been? He's only a high-level god king. Moreover, his current strength is comparable to an ordinary low-level god king. Have you heard about his performance in the battlefield of the god kings in the imperial battle realm? Shui Mingji asked. I've heard about it. Kuang Tianjing nodded solemnly. His expression was solemn as he said, indeed we can't wait any longer. If he breaks through to the God King stage, I'm afraid it won't be long before I'm not strong enough to kill him. Didn't you come up with a plan earlier? Shui Mingji asked again. Now that he has left the imperial battle realm, it's time to launch a plan to lure him out and kill him. I'll come up with a plan in the next 2 days. Kuang Tianjing said. We have to be quick. Shui Mingji said with a serious face. His existence has always made me feel uneasy. Now only his death can give me complete peace of mind. Aren't I the same? Kuang Tianjing smiled bitterly. Don't worry, deputy sect leader. Once I've confirmed the plan, I'll contact the 2 white dragon elders from the 10,000 Devil sect and ask them to personally make a move. There's no need for you to personally make a move, deputy sect leader. Kuang Tianjing promised. Shui Mingji nodded and added, if possible, ask them to make a move together. I keep having the feeling that there's something strange about Duan Tian. I can't say for the time being. End of chapter. Chapter 38-59. While the Tianlong clan's vice-clan master Shui Mingji and the Tianjin clan's inner-sect elder Kuang Tianjing were plotting how to lure the Duan Tian out of the Tianjin temple and kill the Duan Tian, the Tianlong clan welcomed a group of uninvited guests. These uninvited guests were from the Tai sect, led by the sect master of the Tai sect. Just like a few years ago, the sect master of the Tai sect had brought people to the Tianlong clan to initiate the emperor battle. Sect master Luo, the emperor battle has already begun. What business do you have with the Tianlong clan? As the sect master of the Tianlong clan, Long Qingchong personally received the sect master of the Tai sect and the others. The sect master of the Greater One sect was also a middle-aged man with a dignified appearance. He looked at Long Qingchong in the distance and smiled faintly. Sect master Long, the battle between the God Kings in the Arch Battle Realm is already in full swing. More than 100 God King disciples from our two sects have been killed or injured. Long Qingchong interrupted the sect master of the Tai sect. Sect Master Luo, you should say that more than 160 God King disciples of your Tai sect have died, while the number of God King disciples of our Tianlong clan has just exceeded 100. Long Qingchong deliberately corrected him. The sect master of the Tai sect didn't get angry and smiled faintly. Sect Master Long, a straightforward person doesn't resort to insinuations. If it weren't for the return of Shimin Longxiang, many of your Tianlong clan's God King disciples would have died. Long Qingchong laughed. Sect Master Luo, are you joking? Who doesn't know that it's impossible to communicate in any of the battlefields in the Emperor Battle Realm? It doesn't matter if you're communicating with each other inside or outside. You're telling me that the Tai sect has allowed Shimin Longxiang to return? Long Qingchong's smile grew even brighter. The Greater One Sect Master shook his head and said, Sect Master Long, don't you know that some twins have a certain telepathy between them? Especially when one of them becomes a god, they'll be able to sense it even more. If the other party is in mortal danger, he can sense it immediately. Hearing the words of the Greater One Sect Master, Long Qingchong, the clan master of the Tianlong clan, took a deep look at the other party. Sect Master Luo, you mean Shimin Longxiang has a twin brother in the Greater One Sect? Long Qingchong had naturally heard of what the sect master of the Greater One Sect said. Even in the Tianlong clan there was such a twin brother. Moreover, there were many similar records in the Tianlong clan. The Greater One Sect master shook his head again. Not twin brothers but twin sisters. Shimin Longxiang and his twin sister, Shimin Yun, are both disciples of my martial granduncle, the supreme elder of the Tianlong clan, Lu Zhantu. My martial granduncle has called Shimin Longxiang back a few days ago through Shimin Yun. In fact, Long Qingchong, the sect master of the Tianlong clan, had received the news a few days ago when Shimin Longxiang had just come out. On the Greater One Sect's side, there were many spies of the Tianlong clan. Shimin Longxiang's return from the battlefield of the God Kings had alarmed the entire Greater One Sect, and Long Qingchong had also heard about it. Just now, the reason why he expressed his disbelief of the Greater One Sect Master's words was that he thought the Greater One Sect Master was deliberately mystifying things while Shimin Longxiang was released. He didn't expect Shimin Longxiang to have a twin sister. And then? Long Qingchong looked deeply at the Greater One Sect Master. Sect Master Luo, don't tell me you're here to tell me, to let Duan Lingtian and Shimin Longxiang fight to the death outside? Long Qingchong knew in his heart that Shimin Longxiang had most likely entered the battlefield of the God Kings in the Emperor Battle Realm to target Duan Lingtian. However, the battlefield of the God Kings was huge, and the probability of the two of them meeting was not high. However, because Duan Lingtian had not left the battlefield of the God Kings, even if the probability was low, the Greater One Sect could only let Shimin Longxiang run around like a headless fly. While looking for Duan Lingtian, he killed the disciples of the Tianlong clan's God Kings. If that's the case, I can't agree to it. Without waiting for the Greater One Sect Master to respond, Long Qingchong shook his head. This kind of matter must be decided by the person involved. I don't have the authority to decide for him. If it was an ordinary disciple of the Tianlong clan, as the sect master of the Tianlong clan, he could naturally make the decision for him. However, Duan Lingtian was different. He believed that even the Greater One Sect Master would not dare to say that he could make the decision for Shimin Longxiang. Sect Master Long, I think you've misunderstood. The Greater One Sect Master shook his head again. I've come to find you this time not to challenge Duan Lingtian to a death battle on behalf of Shimin Longxiang, but to discuss something with you. Oh. Long Qingchong's eyes flashed. Sect Master Long, the Greater One Sect Master said with a grave expression. You should also know that with Shimin Longxiang and Duan Lingtian's strength, entering the battlefield of the God Kings is actually unfair to the others. Even if the others form a group, they may not be able to avoid being killed by them. Unless it's a group of 100 people. At this point, the Greater One Sect Master paused for a moment before bluntly stating the purpose of his visit. The reason I came this time is to discuss something with Sect Master Long. From today onwards, Shimin Longxiang will no longer enter the Divine King battlefield. However, in exchange, we don't want Duan Lingtian to enter the battlefield of the God Kings again. The Greater One Sect Master went straight to the point. Long Qingchong's eyes flashed when he heard this. Shimin Longxiang agreed to this matter? If he didn't agree, I wouldn't have appeared here. The Greater One Sect Master said matter-of-factly. The Tianlong clan will have to ask the person involved about this matter. Long Qingchong said. Of course. Duan Ling Tian, who was originally cultivating in seclusion, was suddenly awakened by someone. The person who woke him up was none other than Shui Haichuan. Brother Haichuan, is there something you need? In Duan Lingtian's opinion, Shui Haichuan must have an urgent matter to discuss with him and even woke him up from his cultivation. The sect master asked me to come. Shui Haichuan sighed. He asked me to tell you that as long as you're willing to not enter the battlefield of the God Kings again, he can give you another 200,000 contribution points. The reason? Shui Haichuan's intention surprised Duan Ling Tian. He originally didn't plan to enter the battlefield of the God Kings again, but now that the Tianlong clan sect master asked Shui Haichuan to come find him, it was equivalent to sending a treasure to his doorstep. In exchange, the Greater One sect will not allow Shimin Longxiang to enter the battlefield of the God Kings again. This time you killed more than 100 God King realm disciples in the battlefield of the God Kings. And although Shimin Longxiang didn't kill as many as you, he still killed more than 60 people. This is because he entered the battlefield of the God Kings later than you. Otherwise, the number of people he killed wouldn't be less than you. Shui Haichuan said. I see. Duan Ling Tian suddenly understood. He had heard about Shimin Longxiang's existence not long after leaving the battlefield of the God Kings in the Emperor Battle Realm. At that time he was in Peace City. Many Greater One sect disciples said that he, Duan Ling Tian, would have definitely died if he hadn't encountered Shimin Longxiang in the battlefield of the God Kings. Later on, he heard from Dongfang Yannian, so he had a certain understanding of Shimin Longxiang, this monstrous genius of the Greater One sect. Brother Haichuan, tell the sect master that it's fine if I don't enter the battlefield of the God Kings, but I don't want 200,000 contribution points. I need some medicinal herbs, Duan Ling Tian said as he named several medicinal herbs to Shui Haichuan. They were all relatively rare, and one of them could be found in Peace City in the Emperor Battle Realm. It required battle merits to exchange for them. However, it required 1,000 battle merits. Duan Ling Tian didn't have enough battle merits in the battlefield of the God Kings. Moreover, there were other things he urgently needed, so Duan Ling Tian exchanged them for other things. In reality, these medicinal herbs were worth less than 100,000 contribution points at most in the Tianlong clan. However, they were rare and hard to find. Unless the Tianlong clan sent people to distant places to buy them with divine crystals, divine stones or other treasures, they could only rely on luck to obtain them. These medicinal herbs must be delivered within 3 years. Duan Ling Tian added in the end. He thought about his cultivation progress. In about 3 years he would be able to use these medicinal herbs to refine divine pills to aid his cultivation. At that time he might be able to reach the God Emperor realm in one go. I'll tell the sect master right away. Shui Haichuan quickly contacted the sect master of the Tianlong clan, Long Qingchong. After a moment of silence, Long Qingchong agreed. Tell him that I agree. At the same time, Long Qingchong also felt some regret for rewarding Duan Ling Tian with so many contribution points. If it weren't for the fact that he had previously rewarded Duan Ling Tian with 300,000 contribution points, he might not have rejected the offer of 200,000 contribution points this time. He had really shot himself in the foot. Thank the sect master for me. Duan Ling Tian smiled brightly when he heard Shui Haichuan's message. Then, as if remembering something, he said, Brother Haichuan, I met Miss Seventh on the battlefield of the Divine Kings. She's now one of the 2 leaders of the 100-man team. She won't be in danger there. I know. Shui Haichuan nodded. He had heard about Miss Seventh leading a 100-man team. Brother Haichuan, you seem to have a special relationship with her? Duan Ling Tian asked with a smile. Don't misunderstand. Shui Haichuan shook his head when he saw Duan Ling Tian's meaningful look. She's the daughter of an old friend of mine. The last time she met me she was just passing on a message from her mother. I asked you to take care of her because I feel guilty about what her mother did back then. Shui Haichuan sighed when he thought about what had happened back then. I see. Realization dawned on Duan Ling Tian. Then, when he saw that Shui Haichuan seemed to be in a bad mood, Duan Ling Tian did not continue chatting with him. He bade farewell and returned to his room to continue his closed-door cultivation. He had completely forgotten about the time while he was cultivating. Half a year later. Somewhere in the Tianlong temple, an old voice sounded resolute. It's decided then. Set up a trap and lure him in. The divine dwellings and divine treasures left behind by a God Emperor expert, and suspected to have been left behind by a God Emperor expert, I don't think he'll be able to resist the temptation. Chapter 3860. For Duanling Tian, cultivation was the strengthening of the divine power in his body. The continuous flow of heaven and earth spiritual energy from heaven and earth was integrated into his body and transformed into his divine power through his cultivation technique. During this process, the divine pills he had consumed, the soul-gathering formation formed by the divine stones around him, and the divine crystals in his hand had all provided him with great help, allowing his cultivation speed to rise even further. Otherwise, even without the bottleneck from the godly king realm to the divine emperor realm, it would still take a long time to cultivate. Many people spent thousands of years cultivating from the moment they broke through to the upper godly king realm to the bottleneck of the divine emperor realm. Even those with good talent had to spend hundreds of years or even thousands of years to do so. With the cultivation resources I have now, even the godly venerable god forces geniuses may not have it, let alone the geniuses of the top godly emperor forces. Duanling Tian often thought of this when he was cultivating. Of course, he only dared to compare the cultivation resources of the upper godly king realm with others. If it was the cultivation resources of the divine emperor realm, he would not be able to compare. The reason he could enjoy such treatment was because he was able to refine the ultimate king-level divine pills and even ultimate emperor-level divine pills. Although there is no peace, blindly cultivating will still get worse and worse. It's better to take a break once in a while. It's more efficient to cultivate after resting. After realizing this, Duanling Tian did not completely immerse himself in cultivation. Moreover, I have nearly 300,000 contribution points now. With so many contribution points, I should be able to stay in the Tianlong clan's law secret chamber for a long time, right? Duanling Tian's eyes lit up when he thought of this. The Tianlong clan's law secret chamber could only allow one to comprehend a certain law to the point of fusing three profundities. It was of no help to his law of space. However, it was of great help to him in comprehending other laws. In addition to the law of space, he also comprehended three other supreme laws. However, the law of time could not be improved through ordinary law secret chambers. In addition, he had also comprehended all of the five elemental laws. When he was in the Linghu family, he had comprehended them to the point where he could fuse two profound meanings. I'll first comprehend the laws of life and the laws of fire. These two laws will have a huge impact on refining divine pills. Moreover, their improvement will strengthen my clones of the law of life and law of fire as well. Duanling Tian had already condensed the law clones of the other 8 laws, but he had not used them yet. Moreover, he usually did not use his other nomological avatars. A spatial law doppelganger was enough. If the law of space doppelganger was useless, then the weaker law of space doppelganger would naturally not be of much use. As soon as Duanling Tian entered the law secret chamber, Shui Mingji, the Tianlong clan's deputy clan leader, received the news and immediately sent a message to the inner sect elder, Kuang Tianjing. Duanling Tian has entered the law secret chamber. Now, do you have a plan to lure him out of the Tianlong clan? On the other hand, Kuang Tianjing was a little troubled. Don't worry, deputy clan leader. I've been thinking of a plan and looking for an opportunity recently. After all, I can't just send someone to Duanling Tian, tell him that I've discovered the divine dwellings and divine treasures left behind by a divine emperor expert and invite him to explore them together, right? If Duanling Tian is so stupid, he wouldn't be alive now. Kuang Tianjing wished he could kill Duanling Tian, but he also knew that he couldn't alert the enemy. If he sent someone to Duanling Tian, they would definitely be seen through by Duanling Tian, who wouldn't hide news of the divine dwellings and divine treasures left behind by a divine emperor expert. They would only tell those close to them. It was impossible for them to tell others. I naturally know this. Shui Mingji impatiently said, what I want to ask you is, do you have a plan? Yes. Kuang Tianjing responded. In the Tianlong clan, Duanling Tian has 2 good friends. They were both 10-star students of the Hidden Fog sect Skywind City's Hidden Fog Academy. Since then they have been friends and now they have entered the Tianlong clan together. I want to use them. Following Kuang Tianjing's words, Shui Mingji didn't continue to be aggressive. Then let's wait. Shui Mingji said, I also don't believe that Duanling Tian's 2 friends won't come out. Vice Sect Master Shui, don't worry. I want Duanling Tian dead more than anyone else. Kuang Tianjing said in a deep voice, moreover, I am already mentally prepared. If I can't kill Duanling Tian with this method in the end, I will personally kill him before he grows up. I won't hesitate to die. Kuang Tianjing's tone was resolute. Kuang Tianjing's words surprised Shui Mingji. Elder Tianjing actually has such determination? Therefore, please don't worry, Vice Sect Master. Duan Tian won't be able to escape death sooner or later. Kuang Tianjing said. As he said this, Kuang Tianjing felt bitter in his heart. If there was a way to kill Duan Tian through other means, he wouldn't have taken that step. In fact, it wasn't his own idea to take that step. No one wanted to die. However, the two white dragon elders of the Thousand Demon sect had already spoken to him in private. If it really came to that, he would have to kill Duan Tian at the cost of his own life. If he killed Duan Tian in Tianlong Temple, he would be executed. If he didn't do as he was told, he and his family would all die without a burial place. In order to prevent him from escaping, the two white dragon elders of the Thousand Demon sect had even cooperated with him and left some marks on him so that he wouldn't be able to escape. Originally, if he didn't cooperate, the marks wouldn't be able to reach him. However, he didn't dare to not cooperate. With Elder Qianjing's words, I'm relieved. Shui Mingji smiled faintly. For Shui Mingji, even if Kuang Tianjing was his son-in-law's master, he was only an inner sect elder. His status was low and couldn't enter his eyes. He didn't care whether he died or not. In fact, if he died, his son-in-law would have less to worry about. In his view, it was a good thing. The Emperor Battle Plane. The Divine King Battlefield. Kill. Kill them and we'll be able to complete the minimum mission for this year and next year, and leave the Divine King Battlefield. Don't be afraid. Otherwise, if the other side turns the tables, everyone will die. A team of 30 people from the Tianlong clan was besieging a team of 20 people from the Greater One sect. The top battle strength of both sides was equal, but because the Tianlong clan had the advantage of numbers, it was one-sided. However, because they were at a disadvantage and the danger was close, the more than 20 disciples of the Greater One sect were all as if injected with chicken blood. After a few people were killed, the remaining people became even crazier. Boom. Rumble. The group of Greater One sect disciples knew that at this time, they could only fight for their lives. If they tried to escape, they would only die faster because once they escaped, they would become the target of everyone. At that time, not only would the people of the Tianlong clan target him, but the people of the Greater One sect would also not help him. Buzz. A bright blade light flashed across the sky, and was about to sweep through the head of an inner sect disciple of the Tianlong clan and split him in two. The expression of the Tianlong clan disciple completely changed. There was a look of horror in his eyes. Bang. At the critical moment there was an explosion. It was a tall and burly figure breaking through the sky like a god. He punched out, and a terrifying power entwined with blood chi turned into layers of victory, shattering the blade light. Kill him. The tall figure said indifferently. The Tianlong clan disciple revealed an ominous glint in his eyes, and joined forces to kill the Greater One sect disciple who had almost killed him. The whole process only took 2 breaths of time. Dingyan, thank you. The Sky Dragon sect inner sect disciple who had been saved by a life and death situation finally had the time to thank the people around him. We are all fellow disciples, no need to thank me. Ding Yen said. At the same time, the other disciples of the Tianlong clan also gradually gained the upper hand. Of course, in the process, there were still several people who were killed by the Greater One sect disciples. When the more than 20 disciples of the Greater One sect were completely annihilated, the more than 30 people of the Tianlong clan also lost 6 people, leaving less than 30 people. After the dust settled, the group of Tianlong clan disciples did not have the slightest joy, but each and every one of them had a sorrowful look. They were originally a team of 50 people. They had encountered several waves of Greater One sect disciples, and had been crushed along the way. They had also lost a lot of people. To be able to survive until today, they were all relatively strong. But they did not expect that, although the remaining people were quite strong, they still lost 6 people. I really can't accept this. The number of people who died this time is the most. A Tianlong clan disciple said with a face full of unwillingness. There's no other way. The Greater One sect disciples we encountered this time, although there weren't many people, but their strength was very strong. Only 6 people died, that's already not bad. This time, as we all agreed before, those fallen teammates, if their relatives and friends need help in the future, any one of us is duty-bound to help. Whoever wants to avoid this responsibility will be targeted by the remaining people. Seconded. Let's go, let's go. The harvest this time is enough for everyone to complete the minimum task. Ding Yin was also a member of this team. A year ago, Ding Yin originally only found a small team, but as the situation changed, his small team joined forces with several other small teams, and then further expanded. In the end, Ding Yan's team had expanded to nearly 60 people. After entering the battlefield of the Divine King, Ding Yin had followed this team and killed many Greater One Sect disciples, collecting their identity badges. Everyone had only one goal: to complete the minimum task. After completing the minimum task, they would go out to rest for a period of time, and then enter the Emperor battle plane. Chapter 3861. After successfully returning to Sky Dragon City, Ding Yin heaved a long sigh of relief. Then he followed the people in his team to complete the minimum mission. After all, they were not like Duan Ling Tian, who brought back a pile of identity badges of the Greater One Sect's Divine King disciples and exchanged them for a large amount of battle merits. The identity badges they received were all managed by the strongest team leaders. When they completed the minimum mission, they would be counted one by one. After the counting, Ding Yin followed the people in the team to Peace City. Originally, in the Emperor battle plane, the identity badges used to complete the minimum mission were not counted for battle merits. However, after the Greater One Sect changed this rule, the Tianlong clan also followed suit and changed this rule. After all, if the Tianlong clan changed it and you did not, it would dishearten the disciples. Ding Yin, what are you going to exchange for with your battle merits? A teammate asked Ding Yin with a smile. Ding Yin shook his head. I've already looked around. Although there is something I want, I can't exchange it for anything with my battle merits. Therefore, I don't plan to exchange for anything for the time being. After saying that, Ding Yin bade farewell to the other party and returned to Sky Dragon City. Just as Ding Yin was walking toward the exit of Sky Dragon City, he saw two people walking in front of him in a somewhat secretive manner. The two people seemed to have not noticed him and were whispering to each other in low voices. We can't let too many people know about this. That place is suspected to be a divine residence and divine treasury left behind by a divine emperor expert. Of course I know about this. However, didn't you say that opening the divine treasury requires the cooperation of many people? Are you going to find a divine emperor? How is that possible? We are only superior divine kings, how can we find a divine emperor to go with us? If a divine emperor goes, do you think we have a share of the things in the divine residence and divine treasury? The two people whispered to each other while looking left and right. However, because they did not notice Ding Yin behind them while looking left and right, they still talked quite a bit. After talking for a while, one of them subconsciously turned his head to look behind him. When he saw Ding Yin, his expression instantly changed. Moreover, a trace of killing intent flashed across his eyes. However, it disappeared in the blink of an eye. Someone's here. He hurriedly reminded his companions. At the same time, he and his companions stopped and turned around, glaring at Ding Yin. You heard everything? These were two inner sect disciples. Both of them looked young. One was wearing a light green robe, while the other was wearing a grayish-white robe. Both of them were looking at Ding Yin with unfriendly gazes. Yes. Ding Yin was very clear in his heart that with such a short distance and the fact that he was a mid-level divine king, the other party would not believe him if he said that he did not hear it. So he might as well admit it. Furthermore, at this moment, his heart was burning with passion. Divine dwellings and divine treasures left behind by God emperors? If he could enter, it would be a great opportunity. You're Ding Yin? One of them looked at Ding Yin for a moment and frowned for a moment. In the end, he seemed to have thought of something. A glint flashed across his eyes as he asked in a deep voice. Yes. Ding Yin nodded. Ding Yin? The other person looked at his companion in confusion. You know him? No, I've only heard of him. This Ding Yin was brought into the sect by our Tianlong clan Sikong. However, he did not join our Tianlong clan until the last time he came in with Duan Ling Tian, Hua Tiandu, and the rest. Moreover, he participated in the Hidden Dragon competition. Sikong? The father of the Azure Dragon disciple, senior sister Sikong Yu? Yes. The two of them conversed for a while and approached Ding Yin. Although Ding Yan's heart tightened, he acted as if nothing had happened. This was because he knew that the two of them would not kill him here. Ding Yin. The green-robed youth stared at Ding Yin and said in a deep voice, We did not mean to let you hear it. However, since you have heard it, we will give you two choices. Ding Yin looked at him and waited for him to continue. The green-robed youth continued, Later, you will leave with us. Consider it carefully during this process. If you are not interested in the Divine Emperor treasury left behind by a Divine Emperor expert, make a heart demon blood oath after you leave and promise that you will not spread this matter. The two of us will give you 1,000 contribution points. If you are interested, we can allow you to join us. However, you can only bring one person with you at most. Since you are close to Sikong, you can invite his daughter, Sikong, to join us. However, before you allow Sikong to join us, you still have to make a heart demon blood oath that you will not spread what you know from us. Moreover, you have to guarantee that Sikong will not spread this matter. Besides that, we know that we are not a match for Sikong. If you want us to bring you over, you have to make a heart demon blood oath before you go. After you leave the sect, you are not allowed to make a move against us unless we take the initiative to make a move against you. The two young men spoke one after another, carefully taking all kinds of concerns into consideration. If it was said that Ding Yen was originally only half believing in the so-called divine dwelling and divine treasure left behind by a divine emperor expert, now he undoubtedly believed it a little more. If they were not sure, why would the two of them be so careful? It was obviously impossible. I also have a request. When the two of them could not think of anything else to say, Ding Yen looked at the two of them and said, I can only bring one person. I have no objections. However, I don't want to bring Sikong. I want to bring Duan Tian. He is not a divine emperor. Ding Yen said. Duan Tian? Upon hearing Ding Yan's words, the two youths' expressions changed slightly. The Duan Tian you are talking about is the one who killed hundreds of Greater One Sect's Divine King disciples in the Divine King battlefield not long ago and is suspected to have the strength of a lower Divine Emperor? Is it the new inner sect disciple who just joined the sect? That Pill Master Duan? The two youths' expressions changed and their eyes were filled with vigilance. Yes. Ding Yen nodded. No. One of them shook his head and said, Duan Tian is too strong. In fact, he's even stronger than Sikong. Even if we can find a few more powerful higher god kings in the sect to join us, we won't be able to gain anything once we enter the divine dwellings and divine treasure. Duan Tian won't do. You should look for Sikong. The person shook his head as he said this. At this moment, the other person frowned slightly and said, if Duan Tian joins us with his strength, we can go in with fewer people. It's a good thing. However, if he joins us, we won't be able to get a share of the benefits. Ding Yen frowned when the two youths chimed in. He did not want to bring Sikong along for such a good thing. The first person he thought of was Duan Tian. Didn't you say that a divine king would be enough? Duan Tian is also a divine king. Ding Yen said in a deep voice, in any case I'll only bring Duan Tian. If you're unwilling, I'll spread the news after I leave. At that time you'll still have to share the news due to the pressure. Moreover, you won't be able to get anything. As soon as Ding Yen said this, the two youths' expressions changed drastically, and their gazes turned sharp. Then the two youths looked at each other. Under Ding Yan's gaze, they did not speak for more than 10 breaths of time. In the end, the green-robed youth looked at Ding Yen and said in a deep voice, we can let Duan Tian participate. However, before we enter the Divine Emperor Treasury, he must swear a heart demon blood oath that he won't take all the benefits in the Divine Emperor Treasury for himself. He must share them with us. Of course, in view of his strength that's almost on par with a Divine Emperor, we can give him 30% of the benefits. The remaining 70% will be shared by all of us, including you, Ding Yen. Ding Yen nodded when he heard the green-robed youth's words. That's not a problem. However, how many people do you intend to bring along? I don't recommend bringing too many people. Of course. The other youth nodded matter-of-factly. With Duan Tian, the two of us can bring along another 4 people. At that time, Duan Tian will take 30% of the total benefits, and the remaining 7 of us will each get 10%. Ding Yen felt the youth was too optimistic when he heard his words. How could the Divine Emperor Treasury left behind by a Divine Emperor Treasury be so simple? That was something that could cause death. In response, Ding Yen added, what if someone dies in there? With Duan Tian's strength, I'm afraid he'll have to shoulder the burden alone at a critical moment. Hey people. If one of us dies, we'll share 40% with Duan Tian. If 2 of us die, we'll share 50% with Duan Tian. If 3 of us die, we'll share 60% with Duan Tian. Ding Yen stated his request. You don't have any objections to this, right? The two of them pondered for a moment and discussed through voice transmission. Finally they nodded. No objections. It's decided then. Duan Tian has come out a long time ago. He should be cultivating now, right? After leaving the Emperor Battle Realm and returning to the Tianlong Temple, Ding Yen and the two youths returned to the Inner Sect Disciples Cultivation area. Both of them were Inner Sect disciples as well. However, Ding Yen soon discovered that Duan Tian was not there. I'll contact you after I've contacted Duan Tian. After exchanging soul pearls with the two youths, Ding Yin destroyed his residence. The two youths returned to the same courtyard and entered the same room. They activated the formation in time. The fish has taken the bait. The green-robed youth grinned widely. Now let's inform Elder Kuang Tianjing. This is good news. I'm sure Elder Kuang Tianjing won't be stingy with his contribution points. The other young man also laughed. Based on their private conversation, it was obvious they were two chess pieces in Kuang Tianjing's plan. As for the divine residence and divine treasure left behind by a God Emperor powerhouse, it was pure nonsense. The two messages were sent out one after another. As for Kuang Tianjing, he immediately received the message from the two of them. Ding Yin has taken the bait? Kuang Tianjing smiled after listening to the entire process. It went smoother than I expected. In this case, Ding Yin will most likely believe in the divine residence and divine treasure left behind by a God Emperor powerhouse. Chapter 3862. The Tianlong clan's secret chamber of laws was of a much higher level than the Linghu family's. This was to be expected. After all, one was a God Emperor level clan with a deep foundation, while the other was merely a God Emperor level clan. Duanling Tian had originally thought that with enough contribution points, he would at least be able to comprehend the fusion of the three profundities of the law of fire and the law of life. However, he soon realized that he had been overthinking things. He had just comprehended the fusion of the three profundities of the law of fire, but before he could comprehend the fusion of the three profundities of the law of life, he was forcefully thrown out of the secret chamber. Have I used up all my contribution points? This thought suddenly popped into Duanling Tian's mind just as he was thrown out and his comprehension of the law of life was interrupted. A voice sounded in Duanling Tian's ears. You've used up all your contribution points. The person who had spoken was an old man standing in the corridor outside the secret chambers. He was dressed in a long white robe and had a wizened face. He was now looking at Duanling Tian with a complicated expression. Since when could an inner sect disciple squander his contribution points in the secret chamber of laws? Even the son of the sect master and the grandson of the Golden Dragon elders would not receive such treatment, right? However, when he thought about the source of his contribution points, he felt relieved. His contribution points were not given to him, but earned through his own efforts. No matter how he used them, no one could tell him what to do. Elder Ming, since I've used up all my contribution points, it's time for me to leave. Goodbye. Duanling Tian snapped out of his daze, bid farewell to the old man and left. The old man with the Black Dragon Elder identity token at his waist acknowledged Duanling Tian's departure and watched him leave. Just as Duanling Tian's figure was about to disappear, he could not help but remind him, Duanling Tian, if you have the chance to obtain a large amount of contribution points in the future, try not to use them up all at once. If there's a need for contribution points in the future, you may not be able to obtain them in time. Duanling Tian paused for a moment, then turned around and smiled at the old man. Thank you for the reminder, Elder. Although he said that, Duanling Tian did not take it to heart. If he really wanted contribution points, there were many ways to obtain them. He believed that the sect master of the Tianlong clan would not be stingy in the face of what he had offered. I'll cultivate for now. As for the other laws, there's no hurry, I'll take my time. After leaving the secret room, Duanling Tian thought to himself, however, with the law of fire I've comprehended, my law of fire clone should be able to provide me with some help. After all, not everyone below the Divine Emperor realm can comprehend the law and fuse three profound meanings to perfection. Currently, Duanling Tian had comprehended the fusion of all three profundities from the law of fire and had reached the perfection stage. Even if he didn't use the law of space and only used the law of fire, his strength wouldn't lose to the strongest group of young geniuses under the Divine Emperor of Sky Dragon sect. So many people have come out? After returning to the inner sect disciples' cultivation area from the Law Secret Chamber, Duanling Tian saw that there were many more inner sect disciples than before. Obviously, they had all come out from the battlefield of the Divine Kings. Is Duanling Tian? The eyes of the inner sect disciples lit up when they saw Duanling Tian. It was as if they had seen a celebrity. In fact, Duanling Tian could be considered a celebrity. Before the opening of the Emperor Battle Dimension, Duanling Tian had made a name for himself by refining an ultimate divine pill in public. After the opening of the Emperor Battle Dimension, he had entered the battlefield of the Divine Kings and killed hundreds of Greater One Sect's Divine Kings, causing the Divine Kings of the Greater One Sect to tremble in fear. Now, not to mention the Greater One sect and the Tianlong clan, even among the top divine emperors in the Tunglung province, Duan Lingtian's reputation was not small. Duan Lingtian is back. Not long after Duan Lingtian's return, Ding Yan, who was in his own residence, received a message. The person who sent the message was none other than one of the two people who had invited him to join the treasure hunt in the divine treasury of the divine abode. Duan Lingtian is back? After receiving the message, Ding Yan immediately sent a message to Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian, you're back? Duan Lingtian, who had just returned to his residence, replied, I've been back for a long time, but I've been in the law secret chamber recently. You're out too? Yes. Ding Yan replied, then said, I have something to talk to you about in person. Come over. After not seeing each other for more than a year, the two of them met again. Ding Yan, you should have completed the minimum mission, right? Duan Lingtian asked with a smile. Yes. Ding Yan nodded with a smile. If I hadn't completed it, I probably wouldn't have come out. Duan Lingtian, I've heard that you single-handedly killed more than 100 godly kings from the Tai sect in the battlefield of the godly kings. Ding Yan sighed. You know, I was worried that you would be targeted before. Now that I think about it, I was too naive. Back then, when he learned that Sikongyu planned to join forces with Duan Lingtian to enter the Divine King battlefield, he was relieved for Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian going in alone, he felt that it would be dangerous, so he was even more worried about it. Now it seemed that he was worried for nothing, and at the same time he underestimated Duan Lingtian too much. I didn't meet any of their experts. Duan Lingtian smiled faintly, and at the same time he thought of a name. Shimin Longxiang. Judging from the other party's performance in the Divine King battlefield, his strength was obviously close to that of a lower Divine Emperor. In their Greater One sect, I'm afraid that only Shimin Longxiang can contend with you. Ding Yan said, and at the same time, a hint of fear flashed across his eyes. Duan Lingtian smiled and didn't say anything. He changed the topic and asked, Ding Yan, didn't you say that you have something to talk to me about? What is it? Ding Yan's expression turned solemn when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. After confirming that Duan Lingtian had activated the isolation formation, he said, Duan Lingtian, I have news about the divine dwellings and divine treasure left behind by a divine emperor. And, it seems to be left behind by a divine emperor. Hearing Ding Yan's words, Duan Lingtian was stunned. A divine palace left behind by a divine emperor expert? Seeing Ding Yan's mysterious face, Duan Lingtian couldn't help but ask, Ding Yan, where did you get this news? Is it reliable? Now, Duan Lingtian thought of the last time he entered the divine palace left behind by divine emperor Qinwu. Was Duan Lingtian's luck that good? In less than 100 years he went to a divine palace left behind by a divine emperor expert, and now he received news of another divine palace left behind by another divine emperor expert? It should be reliable. Ding Yan nodded. He then told Duan Lingtian about his previous experience and the agreement he made with the others. In the end he reminded Duan Lingtian, don't tell anyone about this. I have made a heart demon blood oath. Normally, Ding Yan could only tell Duan Lingtian about this after Duan Lingtian had made a heart demon blood oath. However, he trusted Duan Lingtian, so he skipped this part. Of course he had to bear the risk. Duan Lingtian heard Ding Yan's words and his eyes flashed a few times before he finally nodded. Okay, when are you leaving? Call me. Duan Lingtian, Ding Yan repeated. At this time Ding Yan repeated again, after we gather before we reach the divine palace left behind by the divine emperor expert, you also need to make a heart demon blood oath. Duan Lingtian nodded, I understand. Then Ding Yan chatted with Duan Lingtian for a while, mainly talking about her experience in the Divine King battlefield. Of course, he also asked Duan Lingtian about Duan Lingtian's experience. After learning that Duan Lingtian had once exterminated the 30 divine kings of the Greater One sect with his own strength, he couldn't help but sigh. Duan Lingtian, do you think that Greater One sect's Shimin Longxiang is really as strong as the rumors say? Ding Yan asked. I'm not sure. Duan Lingtian shook his head. However, since he was able to kill nearly 100 divine king disciples of the Tianlong clan in such a short period of time, and there was no lack of top existences in the Tianlong clan, it can be seen that his strength is indeed extraordinary. At least, if I can do it, it shouldn't be difficult for him to do it. When Duan Lingtian said this, Ding Yan broke out in a cold sweat. If that's really the case, then it's fortunate that we didn't meet him. Otherwise, even if we weren't exterminated by him, I'm afraid that not many of us would have survived. While feeling a lingering fear in his heart, Ding Yan bid farewell to Duanling Tian and left. Returning to his room, Ding Yan was sweating like rain, but it was all cold sweat. On the other side, Duanling Tian was sitting in front of a stone table in the courtyard, his left hand leaning on the table, chin in hand, deep in thought. Divine palace left behind by a divine emperor expert? Interesting. After muttering to himself for a while, Duanling Tian stood up, returned to his room and continued to cultivate. It wasn't until 2 months later that he came out of seclusion. This time he didn't want to come out of seclusion, but because of Ding Yan's message. Because he had an agreement with Ding Yan, he didn't block the message, so he didn't enter a selfless state of cultivation. Although the results of his cultivation in the past 2 months were average, he still made some progress and was one step closer to the Divine Emperor realm. Duanling Tian, they are already waiting for us outside the sect's encampment. Ding Yan said to Duanling Tian with a smile. At this time, Duanling Tian could see the excitement in Ding Yan's eyes. Regarding this, he could also understand. After all, it was a divine palace left behind by a divine emperor expert, and it was suspected that it was left behind by a superior divine emperor. Not to mention Ding Yan, who was a divine king, even a divine emperor would be tempted. Okay, let's go. Duanling Tian nodded in response. Then, as he stepped out, he stomped his foot in the air, and the door to his residence that had just been opened by the formation closed again. Seeing this, Ding Yan was stunned, not understanding why Duanling Tian did this. He was about to leave, so what was the point of opening the array? Seeing Ding Yan's shock, Duanling Tian smiled slightly. You know that I have many enemies in the Tianlong clan. I can open the array and pretend that I'm still inside. Even if someone discovers that I'm leaving now, as long as they can't confirm that it's my original body, they will have to suspect that my original body is still inside. Chapter 3863. Ding Yan's eyes widened when he heard Duanling Tian's words. Then he said apologetically, Duanling Tian, I really forgot about that. I was led by the nose by the divine dwellings and divine treasures left behind by the divine emperor. I completely forgot that you'll be in danger if you leave the Tianlong temple. As a friend of Duanling Tian, Ding Yan had learned about the conflict between the Duanling Tian and the Thousand Devil sect through Ho Qingning, even though Duanling Tian did not mention it. It's fine. Duanling Tian smiled and said, now that the Emperor Battle Realm has opened, everyone's attention is on the Emperor Battle Realm. Even if some people are watching me, they won't dare to act rashly. Don't tell me they'll take the risk to kill me? What if I'm only leaving the Tianlong temple with my clone? I'm not a native of the realms of gods, and I don't have the bloodline of a supreme powerhouse. Therefore I can form a law clone at will. Moreover, the loss of a law clone won't cause any substantial damage to my main body. At most, it'll take me some time to form a new law clone. Duanling Tian smiled. Duanling Tian, Ding Yan said solemnly. If that's the case, you'll follow me with your law clone. It's too risky for you to go with your main body. Moreover, even if you only send your law clone with me, the others won't be able to compete with you and me. Ding Yan said. How do you know I'm not just a law clone now? Duanling Tian asked Ding Yan through voice transmission with a smile. Ding Yan's eyes widened slightly when he heard Duanling Tian's words. Then, his expression softened as he sighed in relief inwardly. Let's go. Duanling Tian said to Ding Yan. Ding Yan nodded and led Duanling Tian out of the Tianlong temple. Before they left the Tianlong temple, Kuang Tianjing, an inner elder, received news that they had left together. Duanling Tian left with Ding Yan? Yes. The person who came to report to Kuang Tianjing was none other than his second disciple. Zhongkin. Kuang Tianjing's eyes brightened when he heard this. Zhongkin frowned slightly as he said, however, I heard from the messenger that Duanling Tian left his residence said that he activated the formation after he left. Duanling Tian and met Ding, he reactivated the formation again. When he spoke up to this point, Zhongkin paused for a moment before he spoke of his concerns. Master, according to my knowledge, Duanling Tian doesn't possess the bloodline of a supreme powerhouse, and he's from a Devata realm. Moreover, during the Hidden Dragon Grand Competition he revealed a clone of the Law of Space. Could it be that he left the Tianlong temple after meeting Ding Yan and leaving with his Law of Space clone? Kuang Tianjing frowned when he heard Zhongkin's words. He even concealed his residence? Yes. Zhongkin nodded. We'll have to destroy the formation in his residence to confirm if he left his true body behind. Moreover, that's not safe. It's impossible for the people there to keep following him. After all, there's a risk of being discovered. He could have left his true body behind on his way out. Therefore, there's only one way to confirm if it's his real body that left. That's to confirm if it's his real body or his clone outside of the Sky Dragon sect's estate. However, that's not something that can be easily detected with divine consciousness. At the very least, if he wants to, even a superior divine emperor won't be able to confirm if it's his true body or his clone. Unless it's the divine consciousness of a divine emperor who's 2 stages higher than his soul. Kuang Tianjing frowned when he heard Zhong Can's words. In the end, Kuang Tianjing took a deep breath and said, I understand. Leave the rest to me. If you have time, you should spend more time with my disciple's wife. I can see that Vice Sect leader Shui really values you. Make good use of this opportunity. After saying that, Kuang Tianjing sighed. Alright, you can go back. Master, if there's anything else, just let me know. Zhong Can said solemnly before he left. Alright. Kuang Tianjing nodded. His tone was casual, but no one knew if he took Zhong Can seriously. As soon as Zhong Can dared to leave, Kuang Tianjing sent out a message. Of course, this message was not for Zhong Can Meng Shan, that Duan Lingtian left behind a smokescreen in the end. This time, I'm afraid you'll have to confirm if it's his true body or his clone that left. Kuang Tianjing sighed and said, If you regret it, I won't make things difficult for you. I'll find someone else. As soon as Kuang Tianjing finished speaking, there was a response from the other side. Master, if you hadn't taken me in back then, I would have died long ago. I'm not very talented, and I'm the one with the worst talent among your disciples. Even my current cultivation base of an inferior divine emperor is all thanks to you, Master. Even if I'm safe and sound now and don't take risks, I can only live for a few thousand years at most. The last 1,000-year heavenly tribulation was already very difficult for me. This time it's my honor to do something for Master and little junior brother. Meng Shan was also Kuang Tianjing's eldest disciple. As an inferior divine emperor, Meng Shan was also an outer sect elder of the Tianlong clan and usually stayed in the outer sect. Outside the Tianlong temple, Duan Lingtian was led by Ding Yan. After about half a day, Duan Lingtian followed Ding Yan into a small town and saw the other 2 inner sect disciples of the Tianlong clan who had agreed to go with Ding Yan. In addition to the 2 inner sect disciples of the Tianlong clan, there were 4 unfamiliar faces to Ding Yan. Looking at the identity tokens hanging from their waists, they were obviously inner sect disciples of the Tianlong clan. Ding Yan. As soon as Ding Yan and Duan Lingtian arrived, the 2 inner sect disciples who had invited Ding Yan to the Divine Emperor's divine residence came up to him and introduced the other 4 to Ding Yan. Ding Yan was also introduced to the other 4 people. I don't think I need to introduce this person, right? As one of them spoke, the other 4 people suddenly looked at Duan Lingtian with vigilance. Duan Lingtian. For any inner sect disciple, Duan Lingtian was an existence that they absolutely could not provoke. Even if they had the advantage in numbers, they did not think they could be a match for Duan Lingtian. What a joke. After all, Duan Lingtian had killed more than 100 disciples from the Tai Yi sect's Divine King battlefield in the Emperor Battle Realm. Moreover, it was said that a team of 30 people had been wiped out by Duan Lingtian with no survivors. What kind of concept was this? Hello, Senior Brother Duan. Senior Brother Duan, please take care of us this time. Hello, Senior Brother Duan. The 4 of them smiled as they greeted Duan Lingtian, and all of them were extremely enthusiastic. In fact, they did not dare to take the initiative to ask Duan Lingtian to swear a heart demon blood oath that he would not attack them, and that he would not take everything he had obtained in the divine residence. In the end, it was the 2 inner sect disciples who had invited Ding Yan. Duan Lingtian, on the other hand, had already heard about this from Ding Yan. Due to this reason, he did not hesitate to swear the heart demon blood oath. Seeing this, the 4 inner sect disciples who had also been invited heaved a sigh of relief. Now, we should be able to go to the divine residence left behind by the divine emperor expert, right? Duan Lingtian looked deeply at the 2 people who had invited him and asked. The 2 of them nodded with a smile. Since Senior Brother Duan is also in a hurry to go, we won't stay any longer. Let's go now. Soon, the 8 of them stepped into the air and flew in another direction under the lead of the 2 inner sect disciples. It's not in the same direction as before. The 2 of you are really careful. One of the 4 inner sect disciples shook his head and said, It's better to be careful. One of the 2 inner sect disciples who had led the way said matter-of-factly, With just the 2 of us, we won't be able to suppress all of you. Not to mention there's also Senior Brother Duan among you. It's better to be careful. Duan Lingtian smiled faintly. Hearing Duan Lingtian's words, the other four did not say anything else. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The 8 of them hurried along. None of them took out a divine artifact flying ship and flew with their own strength. Their speed was not slow at all. Although Ding Yin was only a middle divine king, the law profundity that he had comprehended was not something that most of the inner sect disciples in the Tianlong clan could compare to. Therefore, his speed was not slower than an ordinary upper divine king. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed. It's already been a day and we still haven't reached our destination. How much longer do we need? Ding Yin asked. Don't worry. One of the 2 inner sect disciples who had led the way said with a smile, at our speed, we'll reach our destination in about 2 days. That's right. The other person added, in 2 days, we'll reach the divine dwelling and divine treasury left behind by the Emperor God Expert. One of the 4 inner sect disciples said with a smile, I've heard all of you say that the divine dwelling and divine treasury left behind by the Emperor God Expert might be the work of an upper divine emperor. I hope it's as you say. That's right. A divine dwelling and divine treasury left behind by an upper divine emperor is not something that a middle divine emperor or lower divine emperor can compare to. There are still 2 days left. I'm really looking forward to it. The 4 of them were obviously excited. Compared to the calmness of the 2 inner sect disciples who had led the way and the calmness of Duan Lingtian, there was a clear contrast. Although Ding Yin did not lose his composure like the other 4, he could not hide the excitement in his eyes. It was not difficult to reflect his current mood. Just as Duan Lingtian's group of 6 followed the 2 inner sect disciples and arrived outside a stone forest, Duan Lingtian stopped in his tracks. Ding Yin, who was beside him, also stopped in his tracks. 2 of the 4 inner sect disciples also frowned as they looked at the stone forest in front of them. What's wrong? The 2 inner sect disciples who had taken the lead turned to look at Duan Lingtian's group and asked with a puzzled expression. However, deep in their eyes, there was an obvious sense of guilt. There's a formation set up in the stone forest in front of us. Among the 4 inner sect disciples, one of the 2 inner sect disciples who were frowning said in a deep voice. The other inner sect disciple who was frowning also had a vigilant expression as he led the 2 inner sect disciples and asked coldly, You want to lure us into the formation in the stone forest? What do you want to do? Chapter 38-64. What? A formation. The remaining 2 of the 4 did not find any clues earlier, but now that they had extended their divine senses to search the area, they quickly discovered that something was amiss in the stone forest ahead. On the mobile phone, it's really a formation. If someone hadn't reminded me, I wouldn't have discovered it even if I had covered it with my divine senses. Hearing their words, one of the 2 who had discovered the clue said in a low voice, If we hadn't dabbled in formations, we definitely wouldn't have discovered it. What on earth do you 2 want to do? Immediately after, their gazes fell on the other 2 people who were leading the way. Almost at the same time, they opened their mouths and asked similar questions. Both of their eyes were filled with anger. At this moment, the other 2 beside them also looked at the 2 who were leading the way with gloomy faces. On the other side, Duan Lingtian looked at the 2 who were leading the way. His eyes were as calm as ever, as if he was not at all surprised by what was happening in front of him. As for Ding Yin, he was also furious, as if he could not wait to rush forward, grab the 2 by their collars, hang them in the air, and ask them what they wanted to do. Seeing that they had been discovered by Duan Lingtian and the other 5, the 2 who were leading the way frowned slightly and suddenly retreated at the same time. At this moment, Duan Lingtian finally regained his senses. He hurriedly pulled Ding Yin along as he chased after the 2 heavenly dragon sect's disciples who were leading the group. Bang! Almost at the same time that Duan Lingtian took Ding Yin to move, the area where he had been was instantly hit by a majestic and vast force, and the whole ground fell into a tremor. At the same time, Duan Lingtian subconsciously turned around along the gray cover of the flying dust. At a glance, he saw that the other 6 disciples of the Tianlong clan had turned into a bloody mist and died. A divine emperor expert. The expression of Ding Yin, who was being led away by Duan Lingtian, changed drastically. However, Duan Lingtian's expression didn't change much. He only became slightly more solemn. At the same time, he led Ding Yin and caught up with the 2 Tianlong clan disciples before they entered the formation in the stone forest ahead. When they saw Duan Lingtian blocking their path, their expressions changed greatly. They hurriedly knelt on the ground and kowtowed, begging for mercy. Duanlingdan, let us go, let us go. Duanling Tian, spare my life. I will never forget your kindness for the rest of my life. In front of Duanling Tian, the two of them didn't even have the thought of running away. They kowtowed to Duanling Tian and apologized one after another. However, Duanling Tian ignored them. With a wave of his hand, a spatial storm surged and killed the two Tianlong clan disciples, who were caught off guard. Then he took Ding Yan and flew away without looking back. Of course, he didn't go in the direction of the stone forest. Knowing that there was a formation in there, he would be courting death if he still went in there. Ding Yan, he seems to be alone. You leave alone. I'll take him in another direction. As they shuttled through a stretch of mountains near the stone forest, Duanling Tian, who was making a ruckus, put down Ding Yan and continued to fly into the distance with great fanfare. Although Ding Yan's face was full of worry and regret, he didn't continue to follow Duanling Tian because he knew that he would only be a burden to Duanling Tian. I'm too weak. No? That's a divine emperor expert. Although Duanling Tian is strong, he can't stop him. Send a message to Uncle Sikong. With this thought in mind, Ding Yan sent a message to Uncle Sikong without any hesitation. However, there was no reply. Ding Yan frowned. Could it be that Uncle Sikong is in closed-door cultivation? Could it be that Uncle Sikong has entered the Emperor battle realm? Regardless of the reason, Ding Yan's expression turned unsightly. However, he did not linger and hastily returned to the Tianlong temple. To be safe, he deliberately took a detour. If I had known this would happen, I would have exchanged soul pearls with a few more people. Now, there's no way I can ask the people in the Tianlong temple to help me. While Ding Yan was burning with anxiety, he was also filled with regret for his actions. While Ding Yan was preparing to return to the Heavenly Dragon Sect's estate to get reinforcements, Duanling Tian and the Divine Emperors behind him began to play hide-and-seek in the mountains. In the end, the Divine Emperor caught up to Duanling Tian. The Divine Emperor's speed was slower than his. After half a day, he finally caught up to him. Whoosh! A figure appeared in front of Duanling Tian. It was a tall middle-aged man with an ordinary appearance. When he stood there and stared at Duanling Tian, he gave Duanling Tian the feeling of being stared at by a dangerous creature. The middle-aged man was dressed in a long grayish-black robe. There was no identification token hanging from his waist. It was as though his origin was unknown. However, Duanling Tian knew the person in front of him was from the Tianlong clan. In fact, he was most likely from the 10,000 Devil sect. As soon as Duanling Tian arrived in front of the stone forest, he knew he and Ding Yan had been deceived. The divine treasure left behind by the Divine Emperor did not exist at all. It was all fabricated. As for the reason for fabricating this matter, it was none other than to kill Duanling Tian. In terms of killing Duanling Tian within the Tianlong clan, the one with the greatest motive was the 10,000 Devil sect as well as that vice sect master Shui Mingji. Of course, there was also a possibility that the Hidden Fog sect was involved. Although he was on good terms with the Hidden Fog sect's Shui Haichuan, the others from the Hidden Fog sect might not have good intentions towards him. Who are you? Are you from the 10,000 Devil sect? Or are you from Shui Mingji's side? Duanling Tian looked at the black-robed middle-aged man and calmly asked. However, the black-robed middle-aged man didn't care about him at all. He directly attacked. A 5-foot-long saber in his hand bloomed with a golden saber light as it swept out, seeming as if it could cut through the void. The dazzling saber ray swayed in the air like water ripples as it spread out in circles towards Duanling Tian. Although this was only a fusion of the three metal laws' three profound meanings, because the divine power was the divine power of a divine sovereign, its might was so great that even Duanling Tian couldn't help but feel a great pressure. Duanling Tian's divine power had already been accumulating for a long time. At this time he activated the profound meaning of teleportation and directly disappeared from where he was, appearing in the land of lucky chances. However, just as he appeared in the distance, a blazing golden saber light swept out from behind him. It was like a saber strike from an indomitable god, as if it could split the heavens and earth apart. As the saber fell, the entire sky seemed to be dyed with a golden color. It was resplendent and gorgeous. Every single speck of golden light seemed to be able to cause the void to tremble. Duanling Tian teleported again. The gigantic saber ray seemed to have stuck close to his gradually disappearing silhouette before it landed on the ground. An earth-shattering explosion reverberated in the air. A huge saber mark appeared on the ground. Countless vegetation in the mountains and precipitous ridges were uprooted, and many trees were cut down. It was a scene of devastation and chaos. You can't escape. When Duan Lingtian teleported again, the black-robed middle-aged man stepped on the dazzling saber light and blocked Duan Lingtian's way. He attacked Duan Lingtian again. However, every time Duan Lingtian would be able to dodge his attack just in time. Humph! Finally, the black-robed middle-aged man's face turned cold. His divine power surged and the golden light became even more dazzling. It was as if he had turned into a golden man. Another saber light came. This time it was not a simple saber light attack. The black-robed middle-aged man merged with his saber and unleashed an even more powerful attack. It swept toward Duan Lingtian aggressively. Duan Lingtian's body swayed. He wanted to teleport again, but it was too late. The saber light caught up with Duan Lingtian in the blink of an eye. When it caught up with Duan Lingtian, it seemed to have turned into a fierce beast and swallowed Duan Lingtian whole. I didn't let Master down. The black-robed middle-aged man thought to himself as the attack swept toward Duan Lingtian like a stormy sea. At the same time, his body gradually appeared. However, when his divine movement appeared and the saber light dissipated, the joy on his face disappeared in an instant. It's his avatar of the law of space. The black-robed middle-aged man was Meng Shan, the eldest disciple of the inner sect elder of the Tianlong clan, Kuang Tianjing. At this time, his face was extremely gloomy. It was as if water could drip from it. Although he had already mentally prepared himself for this, facing it head-on was still a big blow. Master. After taking a deep breath, Meng Shan transmitted the matter to his master, Kuang Tianjing. After receiving Meng Shan's message, Kuang Tianjing's eyes instantly turned cold. It seems that Duan Lingtian wants to die in the hands of Kuang Tianjing. The murderous intent on Kuang Tianjing's body surged and did not dissipate for a long time. Duan Lingtian. On the way back to the Tianlong clan, Ding Yan could clearly feel the vibration behind him. In his heart, he could only silently pray that Duan Lingtian was safe. Ding Yan. Duan Lingtian's voice sounded, causing Ding Yan to breathe a sigh of relief. Duan Lingtian, you've gotten rid of him, haven't you? No. Duan Lingtian replied. My avatar of the law of space was destroyed by him. As for my original body, it's still in the Tianlong temple. When Duan Lingtian said this, Ding Yan's eyes lit up. In other words, you had a trick up your sleeve earlier. Your original body didn't leave with me? Yes. Duan Lingtian replied. Because you said that only the God King went with you to the divine abode, I thought that even if it was just my avatar of the law of space, it would be enough. In order to not expose any clues, I even hid it from you. Duan Lingtian said. After Ding Yan's joy, he said apologetically, Duan Lingtian, I'm sorry to have implicated you this time. I originally thought that the divine abode left behind by the divine emperor was real, but I didn't expect it to be a trap. A trap to kill you. War Sovereign Lingtian. Chapter 3865. You don't have to blame yourself. You had good intentions. Duan Lingtian sent a message to console Ding Yan. In his opinion, if Ding Yan did not have good intentions, he would not have approached him. After all, he could have approached anyone for such a matter. Moreover, Ding Yan had previously told him that the other party had deliberately said that he could not approach him. However, Ding Yan had still insisted on coming with him. That was why the other party had compromised. Although the other party had taken advantage of his friendship with Ding Yan, at the very least, the other party could see his position in Ding Yan's eyes. Otherwise, he would not have come to such an arrangement. Duan Lingtian only felt gratitude towards Ding Yan. He did not resent him at all. Duan Lingtian, do you remember that person's appearance? Ding Yan asked. I remember. Duan Lingtian replied. However, even if I remember and recognize him, I don't have any evidence. When the other party attacked, he used a formation plate to set up a formation around the area to restrict the recording of things like the floating image pearl. Although a formation plate could not set up a powerful offensive or defensive formation in an instant, it could still set up some isolation and restriction formations. Of course, it was not to say that there were no instant offensive and defensive formations. However, the formation plates used to set up such formations were usually made of extremely precious materials that contained extremely powerful energy. Describe that person's appearance. Ding Yan said, I'll see if I've seen him before. Upon hearing this, Duan Lingtian described. After a moment's hesitation, Ding Yan replied, I've never seen this person before. However, I can ask the others. Forget it. Duan Lingtian sent a message. If I see him, I'll be able to recognize him at first glance. Moreover, who knows if that's his true appearance. However, his divine weapon and the way he attacked should be difficult to fake. At Duan Ling Tian's level of cultivation, the way he attacked had already formed his own style. Even he had his own unique characteristics. This was not something that could be changed just by changing his appearance. That's true. Ding Yin suddenly understood. Let's leave this matter at that. You don't have to tell the others. I won't continue to stay in this inner sect disciples' cultivation ground, Duan Ling Tian said. Not leaving the inner sect disciples' cultivation grounds? Ding Yin was taken aback. Are you worried that he'll attack you directly? That shouldn't be possible. To kill him directly in the Tianlong temple, is he not afraid of death? Ding Yin found it hard to believe. I'm just being cautious. Duan Ling Tian smiled and said, it's not necessarily that someone would risk their life to kill me. But this time the other party plotted to have you bring me out of Tianlong Temple. They made it sound so serious, but it's obvious that they want to kill me. Moreover, now that the Monarch battle plane is open, he has so much free time. He's clearly in a hurry. Even a cornered dog can jump over a wall, let alone those people who want to kill me. They definitely know that when I grow up, I'll be a huge threat to them. After hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Ding Yin frowned and said, then where are you going to stay instead of the inner sect disciples' cultivation grounds? Could it be that you're preparing to enter the Emperor battle plane to cultivate? The Emperor battle plane isn't a suitable place for cultivation. Ding Yin voiced his concerns. Naturally, I won't enter the Emperor battle plane? Duan Ling Tian said with a smile. I don't plan to enter the Emperor battle plane before I break through to the Divine Emperor realm. I'm planning to go to Brother Haichuan's residence and cultivate there. If I go to his residence, even the 2 white dragon elders from the Thousand Demon sect might not be able to kill me, let alone the inner sect disciple Kuang Tianjing who has a death feud with me. Of course, those 2 won't dare to make a move in the Tianlong temple unless they have a death wish. Duan Ling Tian said bluntly. Elder Shui Haichuan's residence is a good place to go. Ding Yin heaved a sigh of relief and said, Duan Lingdun, when I return, I'll speak to Uncle Sikong. If Elder Shui Haichuan wants to enter the Emperor battle plane, you should go to Uncle Sikong's residence. With his protection, even Vice Sect Master Shui Mingji won't dare to cause trouble, let alone the 2 white dragon elders from the Thousand Demon sect. Based on Ding Yan's words, it was clear he was confident in Uncle Sikong. All right. Duan Ling Tian did not reject Ding Yan's good intentions. Moreover, if Shui Haichuan really wanted to enter the Emperor battle plane, he would need a place to go. However, based on the current situation, Shui Haichuan would not easily enter the Emperor battle plane. After all, he still had to protect his elder brother, Shui Haishan. Currently, there was a white dragon elder from the Thousand Demon sect keeping an eye on Shui Haishan. Of course, Duan Ling Tian did not know if the white dragon elder had already left the Emperor battle plane. This was because he had seen the white dragon elder in the Emperor battle plane before entering the God King's battlefield a year ago. At that time he did not know the white dragon elder. It was Dongfang Yin Yin's senior brother who told him the white dragon elder's identity. When Ding Yin returned to the Tianlong temple, Duan Lingtian's main body left the inner sect disciples' residence and teleported away. In just a few leaps he arrived at Shui Haichuan's residence. Brother Haichuan, I'll have to trouble you for a while. When he saw Shui Haichuan, Duan Ling Tian said apologetically. Little Tian, do you still think of me as an outsider? You can stay here for as long as you want, said Shui Haichuan with a smile. At the same time he personally arranged an independent courtyard for Duan Ling Tian in his residence. It was very luxurious, and the environment was not inferior to where Duan Ling Tian had stayed before. Brother Haichuan, Brother Haishan hasn't come out of seclusion yet? Duan Ling Tian asked. Not yet. Shui Haichuan shook his head and asked, Little Tian, why did you suddenly tell me that you want to come to my place? Did something happen? As he spoke, Shui Haichuan's tone became slightly solemn. In Shui Haichuan's opinion, Duan Ling Tian would not suddenly come to his place without any reason. It's just a small matter. Duan Ling Tian smiled faintly and told Shui Haichuan about what had happened to him in a few words. After hearing Duan Ling Tian's story, Shui Haichuan said with a gloomy expression, Based on your description, I should be able to guess who attacked you. He didn't conceal his true appearance. Shui Haichuan said. Oh. Duan Ling Tian narrowed his eyes. He was also curious about the person who had destroyed his clone using the law of space. Mengshan. Shui Haichuan said in a deep voice, Before I broke through to the medium divine emperor realm, I fought with him. His attack was exactly as you described. Mengshan? Duan Lingtian was stunned. This was the first time he had heard of this name. Is he from the Thousand Demon Sect? Shui Haichuan nodded. Not only is he from the Thousand Demon Sect, but he's also Kuang Tianjing's eldest disciple. He's a lower divine emperor and was once defeated by me. He's now an outer sect elder of the Thousand Demon Sect. Duan Lingtian nodded when he heard Shui Haichuan's words. I guessed that it was most likely related to Kuang Tianjing and the Thousand Demon Sect. Now it seems like it's true. Mengshan. I'll remember this person. Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed with killing intent. And that Kuang Tianjing. When I break through to the divine emperor realm, it'll be his death. Today was the first time Duan Lingtian had fought with a divine emperor. Although he was only a lower divine emperor, he could deeply feel the terror of a divine emperor's divine power. It was not a gap that a higher divine king could overcome by relying on profound laws. Because of this, Duan Lingtian was confident that he could defeat the inner sect elder Kuang Tianjing when he broke through to the lower divine emperor realm and consolidated his cultivation. At that time he might not be a match for elder Shui Haichuan of the White Dragon sect. However, it would not be difficult for him to defeat an inner sect elder. Even if he exposed his trump card, it would not be difficult for him to kill Kuang Tianjing, who was an inner sect elder. Little Tian, as an inner sect elder, Kuang Tianjing is quite powerful. Hearing Duan Lingtian's muttering, Shui Haichuan reminded him, the law that he has comprehended may not be weaker than yours. You have just broken through to the divine emperor realm. Even if you consolidate your cultivation, it will be difficult for you to kill him. I suggest that you wait until you break through to the middle divine emperor realm before you find a chance to kill him. Although Duan Lingtian's strength was not ordinary and it was amazing. However, as an inner sect elder, Kuang Tianjing had lived for a long time and had comprehended many profundities from the law. Therefore, Shui Haichuan did not think Duan Lingtian would be able to kill Kuang Tianjing as a primitive divine lord. If it was a draw, Shui Haichuan still had some confidence in Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian nodded. Brother Haichuan, don't worry. If I'm not confident, I won't attack him easily. It's not a good thing to alert the enemy. Shui Haichuan nodded in relief. At the same time, he said with a solemn expression, you made the right decision to come to my place this time. When the Emperor Battle Realm opened, Kuang Tianjing still dared to send people to kill you. This means that he's eager to kill you. Moreover, the Thousand Demon Sect is eager to get rid of you as well. It's very likely that Kuang Tianjing will be pressured into killing you in the sect's encampment. If Kuang Tianjing can kill you at the cost of his own life, not only will the Thousand Demon Sect not suffer a loss, but it will be a great gain. Shui Haichuan said. Of course, there was one more thing that Shui Haichuan did not mention. Even vice-sect leader Shui Mingji would support Kuang Tianjing to kill Duan Lingtian at the cost of his life. After all, Duan Lingtian was a huge threat to him. After all, his only daughter was married to Kuang Tianjing's second disciple. Shui Haichuan did not mention Shui Mingji because he did not want to put too much pressure on Duan Lingtian. After all, Shui Mingji was not someone an inner disciple like Kuang Tianjing could compare to. He was also not someone the White Dragon Elder could compare to as well. In fact, he was not someone the Black Dragon Elder could compare to either. Shui Mingji's strength, even among the high-level divine emperors, was outstanding. Duan Lingtian actually left? After his first disciple, Mengshan, had failed, Kuang Tianjing, an inner sect elder of the Tianlong clan, struggled inwardly for a moment before he made his way to the inner sect disciple's residence. However, at this moment he discovered that Duan Lingtian had already left. Didn't he leave with his main body? Kuang Tianjing's expression was unsightly. He had finally made up his mind, but Duan Lingtian had already left. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.